This is Star Radio UK.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Bebe Means Business. This is a business show where we get to speak about everything and anything to do with business. You can get tips, advice, information, education, anything you want in relation to business. We do it on this show. I'm the host, Bebe Clement, as you know, and I run a group of successful companies. I'm also the author of that book you can see on the right of your screen, How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur. Okay, just to let you know that this is a live show and it's also an interactive program. So during the show, I want to hear your views on anything that we discuss and indeed try and answer any questions that you may have. So please make sure that you write down your questions. I'll be taking all questions just after the 2 o'clock slot. We'll take a break just before 2 o'clock. And then just after 2 o'clock slot, when we return, I'll be trying to answer all the questions that you may have sent in during the show. For those of you who want to send in questions or opinions or whatever, or just want to speak to us live, just to let you know that our Twitter handle is Star Radio UK, or you can text or WhatsApp on 07539 661 744. I'll do that number again, 07539 661 744. Or you can email us at info@Star Radio UK, or join us on Facebook at Star Radio UK. Okay, so for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us. It'll be worth your while, I can assure you. I also want to give a shout out to all the guys in Massachusetts in America. Thank you so much. So many of you tuned in last week. I'm not sure what the attraction is, but thank you so much for tuning in. A big shout out to you. And of course, all my UK peeps, want to thank you for your commitment to the show and your support for the show. Okay, so I know many of you are wondering why I'm dressed like this. All shall be revealed. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why later on in the show. So stay with us. Make sure you stay with us. I'll tell you why I'm dressed like this later in the show. Now, for those of you who were with us last week, we talked about how to make a successful transition from employee to entrepreneur. And the first thing we discussed was you need to examine your motives. Examine your motives as to why you want to go into business. Because I'm a strong believer that not everybody is a born entrepreneur. Not everybody can run a business. So you need to examine your motives as to why you want to go into business. And what I did last week was I put people into two categories of people who want to go into business. And they were called the push and the pull group. And we discovered that people who are actually in the pull group do better in business. But just to give you some information about those who are in the pull group, there are people who want to be their own boss, or they want to be independent and make more money, or they spot a market opportunity and they want to be in control of their own time and destiny. Those are people in the pull group. Then we have people in the push group who have been made redundant or are unemployed, and they want to overcome social exclusion. Or they have family commitments that require flexibility flexibility, and I gave my own example that the final push for me going into business was when I was an employment lawyer at the time, and my son was diagnosed with autism, and so there was no way I was going to do that kind of high-powered job with an autistic child who needed my attention at that time. So I had a family situation that required flexibility, and I couldn't do it while I was doing a full-time job. But like I said, people who are in the pull group, they tend to do better. And that's really because people who do anything out of intrinsic desire tend to do better than those who do it out of external pressure. And those in the push group, are people like been made redundant, or they are unemployed and they think, well, I might as well give it a go. Those kind of people tend not to be as prepared as they should be for it. So those are the kind of things that we looked at last week, and then we looked at the things that you need to start putting in place. Perhaps you have a knowledge gap, you need to go back to school, you don't know as much about the industry that you want to go into as you should. That kind of thing, you need to start working on that. You also need to start thinking about finances, because we discussed that most companies don't turn a profit, at least for the first 2 years. So you might have to do a total restructuring of your personal finances to ensure that you have enough money to tide you over. And then lastly, we looked about how to get your family. Because again, entrepreneurs often underestimate the effect of their personal life on their ability to do well in business. And just because you're fired up and you're excited about your business idea, don't assume that your family has the same level of enthusiasm. So it's important that you get your family's buy-in to your idea or your desire to run a business. Because if you don't, if you're not careful, something that's supposed to pull you together and be for the benefit of the family, if you're not careful, it will push you apart. Many divorces have come because one member of the family went into business, and it affected the whole dynamics of the family. Because indeed, there will be sacrifices to be made by your family. You will not be able to be at all the school plays and stuff like that. So it is important that you get their buy-in. Okay, so that was it. We were looking at the transition plan to starting your own business. And I want to go on from that to say today we're going to be looking at how to not just make a transition plan, but the first steps for business. Your first steps for business. If you're going to go into business, what are the first steps that you need to do? So we're going to be looking at that today, if that's okay with everyone. Okay, so what are the first things that you need to do? Now, you've often heard it said that businesses don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. They don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. And this is really important, I think, particularly for Black-owned businesses. And I can only give an example of the UK, because the UK is where I'm based. So I can speak about the UK. But in the UK, research shows that those Black-owned businesses in the UK, from cradle to grave, have a lifespan of about 5 years. 5 years from cradle to grave. Now, that in itself is a alarming statistic, but it becomes even more alarming when you compare it to an Asian-owned business. Asian-owned business is one generation, and one generation is about 25 years. So if you compare that to what we do, it's quite dismal and it's quite scary. So clearly there are certain things that we are not doing right. Clearly, there are certain things that we're not doing right. So in order to make sure that this is corrected, there are certain things that we have to put in place. Okay? So let's have a look at the things that you need to put in place in order to ensure that your business lasts longer. Another thing that we noticed about Black-owned businesses was that Black-owned businesses tend not to grow. They tend not to grow. They tend to stay very, very small. And I want to have a look at that, because you do have to have a growth strategy. And I would encourage you to have a growth strategy in place even from the start. It's important that you have it in place from the start. Obviously, you may not carry it out for maybe the next 5 years, the next 2 years, or the next 10 years, but you do have to start thinking growth even from the beginning. Because, you know, a business you should be able to build a business such that, for instance, if you think that I want to grow it so that it's my retirement plan. It's my retirement plan. So I will work on it for the next 10 years, and then I'll sell it, and then I will retire into the sunset or something like that, or I'll go and buy a house in Spain and I'll live there or something like that. But you must have a growth plan even from the beginning. Okay, so many people say to me, Bebe, I want to quit my job. I know now is the time, but I don't know what kind of business to do. So we're going to be looking at those kind of questions. But the very, very first thing that you need to do is you need to have a plan. You need to have a business plan. Now, your business plan does not have to be one of those elaborate ones, you know, the kind of ones that you have when you want to go and borrow money from the bank, or you're going to seek money from an investor. There are certain bits of information that they require. And so those kind of business plans are usually quite elaborate. They have like financial forecasts, you know, and all kinds of things like that. You don't necessarily, I don't want you to get deterred by the fact that you don't have all the answers to every part of your business, and so you feel, you know, you can't start your business. But you do have to have some kind of plan. And what informs your plan is your market research. Your market research informs your plan. So that begs the question, so what exactly is market research? Now, market research is research about your business that provides relevant data to help solve marketing challenges that your business is most likely to have when you start. I'm going to say that again because it's quite important. Market research is research that you do that provides relevant data to help solve marketing challenges that your business is likely to have when you get it off the ground. So, like I said earlier, your market research is an integral part of your business plan. And in fact, I would strongly say don't start a business without doing your market research, thorough market research. So one of the reasons behind that is your market research will the findings of it will determine if indeed you have a business. Because you can't just assume because you have something to sell that somebody wants to buy it. So it will inform you as to whether in fact you do have a business or not. And if so, what you need to do so that your business is not dead on arrival, it's not stillborn, as indeed happens to a lot of businesses, so that you can grow it and sustain it. So what should be included in your market research? These are the questions that you should be asking. So one of the first things is, what kind of business do I want to go into? That's the first thing. What kind of business do I want to go into? So many people say to me, like I said earlier, Bebe, I want to quit my job now. I know the time is right. I believe I have enough money, but I have absolutely no idea what kind of business I want to go into. So here are some of the things that I would suggest that you do in order to do it. Here are some things that I would suggest that you do that in order to do it. So the first thing is, I would suggest that you go into a business that you have knowledge of. A business that you have knowledge of, that you have the skills for, and you have the experience of. Okay? Don't just go into a business because it sounds like a good idea. Or don't just go into a business because your friend has gone into that business and it looks like he's doing well. Don't go into a business for those reasons. You need to have some kind of idea of the industry sector that you're going into, and you must have the required knowledge for that business, and you must have the skills. So, for instance, I mean, there's no point in opening a law firm if you don't know anything about the law. If you're not a qualified lawyer, you don't know anything about the law. Even if you were just going to invest in a law firm, you should still have an understanding of the law. Okay? All right. The second thing that you need to do is sometimes even when you have an idea of what you want to do, people will say things like, I'm not sure what to do to start. I'm not sure what exactly I can do, what kind of business I should go into. So I will give you some suggestions as to the things that I did that gave me an idea of what kind of business I should go into. And I'm going to do that after the break. I'm going to take a really short break. And then after the break, I will give you an idea that you can do that will help stimulate your brain cells as to what kind of business to go into. So see you immediately after the break. Go anywhere.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life. Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Bebe Means Business, the business show of the week, the only place where you get all the tips and knowledge and education that you need for anything and everything to do with business. And today we're looking at the first steps for starting your business. The first steps, one of the very first things that you need to do in order to start your business. And just before the break, I was starting to give you tips on how to come up with a business idea, because oftentimes we know we wanted to go into business, we know we want to jack in our job, we know we've got the money for it, but we don't know what to do. So here's something that I did. And I want you to do this exercise. If you're having that problem, you want to start business and you're having that problem as to what to do, here's something I would like you to carry out, because it really helped me. And out of this exercise came 2 businesses that I was able to start. And it was out of this exercise that I also wrote the book, How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur. So here's what I'd like you to do. Get a piece of paper and a pen or whatever it is that you use to make notes and draw a table. Draw a table. And in that table, I want you to divide it into 3 columns. And those 3 columns should have 3 headings. And the first heading should be gifts and talents. So you've drawn your table. It's got 3 columns. And those 3 columns should have 3 headings. The first heading is this: gifts and talents. The second heading is skills and knowledge. And the third heading is passion. You got that? So the first heading is gifts and talents. Second heading is skills and knowledge. And the third heading is passion. So let's go through the 3 of them. So under the first heading, I want you to list all your gifts and talents. Now, even that presents a dilemma, because the number of people who say to me, Bebe, you know what? I don't even know what my gifts and talents are. I don't know what I'm good at. So here's a clue as to what your gifts and talents are. Your gift is anything that you do effortlessly and you make it look easy, you make it look good, that other people would struggle to do. And it gives you, when you're doing it, it gives you a sense of well-being, of joy. You're happy when you're doing it. That's your gift. Okay? That's your gift. And it could be anything. Now, usually there's more than just one thing because most people are multi-talented. And I'll give you a few of my gifts and talents that have helped me forge the businesses that I have gone into. So one of my gifts is clearly communicating in public. I don't have a problem with that. Now, a lot of people, research shows, not even just a lot of people, research shows that one of the greatest fears known to man is public speaking. I don't have that fear. I'm actually better when I'm standing on the stage than I am speaking to people on a one-to-one. So yes, that's really not an issue. That's one of my gifts. I also have very strong leadership, able to influence people to regarding their lives or influence people in taking action around a vision. So that, again, is another of my gifts. I can build teams. I'm really good at building teams, getting people of different backgrounds, different ages, different religions to work together for a common theme. I can write, as you can see from the book, but I don't just write books, I write songs and stuff like that. I can write. So anything that you do that you make look easy and you enjoy doing, that is your gift. So list all of those under that column. Okay? That's the first thing that you need to do. The next thing that you need to do is list all your skills and your knowledge. Now, can I say this? People often underestimate the value of what they know and the things that they know how to do. Just because it seems easy to you doesn't mean that it's not a lifesaver for somebody else. It could be a premium for somebody else. You will be amazed at what people will pay for. And that leads me to why I'm dressed the way I'm dressed. Now, for those of you who do not know, I'm Nigerian. And what I'm wearing today is part of my cultural wear. This is our traditional wear. And what I'm wearing on my head is our traditional headgear. And it's called a gele, Gele. And gele tying is really, really difficult. It doesn't start like this. It doesn't come like this. It actually comes flat pack like this. All right. So this is how it comes before we fiddled with it. Now, for somebody like me, tying this head tie is the bane of my existence. In fact, when I'm going to go out with my husband, if we're going to have to go somewhere formal, my husband will be praying that I'm going to wear English wear. He'll be like, just put on the skirt suit, please, or put on the trousers suit, let's go. Because he knows that if I have to tie this head tie, we're going to be at it for at least an hour. And he's going to be pulling one end, I'm going to be pulling the other end. Why? Because it does to me naturally. I am not skillful at doing things, at doing this thing about tying it. Actually, this one wasn't too bad. This one took me about 20, 30 minutes, which is a record for me. But usually it takes me about an hour. Now, there are people who know how to tie this thing like that. It means nothing to them. They can get 20 of them done in an hour. And because that is what they're skillful at. And people will pay for it. The last time I went to Nigeria, I was amazed to see all these training schools have sprung up, teaching people how to tie gele. And the number of people who pay a premium to attend these colleges and these training schools just to learn how to tie this is amazing, because like I said, it's our traditional wear. So practically every woman ties this at one time or the other during the week, especially if they're very social, they go to weddings or things like that. So don't underestimate what you know how to do, what your skill is. Now, in the UK, for instance, when we go to parties, it's not unusual. In my culture, we tend to have quite large parties or large social gatherings. And so it's not unusual for there to be a room off the main venue of the party. And in that room, there will be queues of women like me who are inadequate in tying their cultural wear, their gele. And we are paying to have people tie this for us before we go into the party. We are paying. So don't underestimate what you know how to do, what skill it is. It might mean nothing to you. Being able to do this is nothing to you. People are willing to pay for it. If you're good at makeup, if you're good at applying your makeup. I have a particular friend who always looks like $1 million. skill at applying makeup. I don't. So I would pay for her. If I was going to go somewhere really, really important, I would pay her to come and do my makeup. So write down whatever your skills are and don't underestimate them. Don't underestimate what you know. Write down your knowledge as well. Now, this is the information age. People are hungry. They have an insatiable hunger for information about anything and everything. And what you know doesn't have to be sexy. It doesn't have to be. So it could even be, let's say you were in an abusive marriage, but you found the courage to leave. And when you left, you were able to get your life together. And now, you're living a pretty nice life. That might not seem like anything to you. But do you know the number of women who are looking for someone to show them how to get out of an abusive marriage? So if you were, for instance, to start a business where you were just doing that, you were offering, you were doing seminars for women who have been abused and giving them the tips to get over all the negative emotions that come with that, and rebuilding their self-esteem and getting them go on and live a fruitful and enjoyable life. Women would pay for that. And you might be thinking, well, that's not a big deal. It might not be a big deal to you, but it might be a big deal to somebody else. So write all these things down. On a personal level, for instance, one of the things that I do is I help, I speak to leadership of faith groups, and I educate them on how to make provision within their church for families who are raising children with special needs, because oftentimes they don't know how to spot it. They don't know how to spot children with special needs, and they don't know how to support and cater for families who are going through that kind of situation. And so what often happens is such families tend to give up on going to church altogether, and lose their faith, but just stay at home and do nothing. So I often go and help pastors and leadership teams and educate them and show them what they can do to absorb such families into church life, and what concessions they need to make and adjustments they need to make to accommodate such families. And I get paid very well for doing that. So, when I first of all started, it didn't seem like a big deal because this was my life story, and I did that because I believe that I have an autistic child, and I know the effect that it had on me when the problems I had in integrating into church as a result of that. So it didn't really seem like a big deal because that was my experience. But then somebody said to me, could you come and, I know you've had this experience, could you come and train my leaders as to what we need to do? Because we seem to be not being able to meet the needs of such vulnerable families, and we'd like to be able to do that. So you'd be amazed at what that somebody else is willing to pay for if you turn it into a business. Then the third column, as you remember, was what am I passionate about? What am I passionate about? Now, the test for passion, as far as I'm concerned, is which of these would I still do? Once you've written down all your talents and your giftings, and you've written down your skills and your knowledge, ask yourself the honest question. Which of these would I still do even if I wasn't getting paid for it? And that is the business you should go for. Whatever you come up with. So start thinking, I like this, but if I didn't get paid for it, I wouldn't do it. Yes, I enjoyed that, but if I wasn't getting paid for it, I wouldn't do it. Whatever you're passionate about, that's the one you should turn into a business. That's the one that you should learn how you can monetize. That's the one you should go for. Now, further down the line, you can then begin to start other businesses. You can invest in other businesses and you can start other businesses. But at the get-go, the very first business, I would strongly encourage you to start a business that you are passionate about. In fact, my favorite definition of an entrepreneur is someone who is able to turn passion into profit. Now, there's a reason why passion is so important. And there's a reason why I've said go into a business at least initially that you are passionate about. Number one, passion drives. Passion drives. Passion will make you go back and knock on a door that has been slammed in your face 10 times. Passion cannot keep quiet. Passion cannot sit down. Passion does not give up. Passion leads to tenacity. Passion leads to tenacity. People who who I don't care what they're going to say, I'm going to go and do it again. They're people who are full of passion. Now, passion not only drives you, but passion influences. And in this day of relationship selling, you need to be able to influence people into buying your products without seeing as being as to people, because people don't like being sold to. But if you are able to influence people through your passion into buying your products, then half your job is done. It's really difficult to ignore passionate people. Passionate people get your emotional buy-in. And you remember in one of the programs, we spoke about the importance of getting your clients' emotional buy-in. And the last thing about passion is passion pulls you through the dark times. And let me tell you, there are many dark times in business. So you need to be passionate, because passion helps you see beyond the darkness. It helps you see beyond the night. All right. Okay, we're going to take another small break, and when I come back, I'm going to deal with any questions that have come in. So please, if you haven't done your questions already, make sure that you send them in, and I'm going to be dealing with them after. I'm dealing with them after the break. Don't go away.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life. Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bebe Means Business Show. If you missed the first part of the show, just to let you know that today on the Bebe Means Business Show, we are talking about the first steps that you need to take when you want to start your business. How do you get started? What do you need to do? And we've been talking about market research. And a couple of questions have come in. I want to deal with those. The first question is from Toyin. Okay. Thank you, Toyin, for your question. And your question is, how long should I do market research for? How long should I do market research for? And really, the answer for me is as long as it takes. All the information that you need to set out your business, there's no time frame for it. I remember when I was going to start my HR consultancy, it took me 2 years. 2 years. To get all the information that I needed to gather together. So there is no time scale, as long as it takes until you get to a stage. Actually, I now need everything that I now have all the information I need to get this business off the ground. So there's no specific time scale for it, Toyin. It's as long as it takes. Okay. All right. Another question that has come in. You advise the business of selling food, which is very helpful. I'm currently doing some market testing. What I want to know is, should I start with a limited product range or go for the full range? And what should I consider in deciding on whether I should go for the full range or limited range? David. Okay, David wants to know whether, he says he's doing some market testing, and he wants to know whether he should the product range or go for the full range, and what should I consider in deciding on whether I should go for the full range. Right. The first thing I would expect you to do is find out from visiting other cash carriers or other
competitors that are doing what you want to do, what is their big sell? And start with that. So there's no point in starting with something that isn't selling. Visit other shops and see what is their big sell. You could speak to some of the staff or some of the attendants. See what is their big sell, and start with that, and then grow your range from there. Depending on how much you have, then grow your range from there. But start with the big sell first, and then take it from them. You could have a couple of minor products to just support it, but start with what is selling the most. So if, for instance, yam is what is selling, there's no point in spending all your money in filling your shop with plantain. All right, make sure that you do that. Well, thank you for your question, David. I have another question here. I know there's some questions coming on Facebook, but I want to answer this question. The question says, what do I do? Oh, and this is from Michael. Okay, Michael in London. Hi, Michael. Thank you for your question. He says, what do I do with all the data I collect during market research? Okay, well, your data should be informing you about your plans. So it should be telling you whether your plans are going to work out or not. So as you go along, the more data you collect, you should be tweaking your business plan in accordance with your findings. So, for example, when I was going to start, again, the HR stroke employment law consultancy, part of my market research revealed that people actually don't like visiting solicitors. I was quite surprised at that. They think that law firms are snooty, they're too formal, they're too stuffy, and they don't actually like visiting solicitors' offices. Another thing I discovered was that the clientele that I was going for, as regards opening hours, they were my opening hours were not necessarily conducive because some of my clientele were employees, and most employees, as you know, are at work during the time of when my office was open, which was 9 to 5. So it was not conducive. So I tweaked my business plan such that I could now, rather than ask clients, only give clients the option of coming to my office, I would give them the option. Is there someone you would like us to meet? We can meet in Starbucks. And then, when would you like us to meet? What time is your lunch time? When's your lunch period? So they say 12 to 1. Okay, I can come and meet you. I'll charge you, of course, for travel time, but I can come and meet you in the nearest Starbucks to your office, and we can talk there. So that was more convenient for them rather than, we're only open 9 to 5, and so if you can't come between those hours, that's it. I can't think of times that I used to go to their house and we sit around the kitchen table and I would do my consultation there. And when I first of all started out, I didn't realize that, but the market research showed that. So I tweaked my business plan in accordance. Okay, here's a question from a gentleman called Benga, and he says, some of my staff are extremely anxious about returning to work, and this is not only affecting the quality of our service, but also staff's morale. Yeah, it's a common problem. I have assured them as much as possible that we are following the government guidelines in ensuring a COVID-free environment. What else can I do to allay their fears? Okay, so you need to, rather than just tell them that you are you're following the government guidelines, you need to be very specific and very clear as to what you are doing. So first of all, how have you sanitized the building? Have you introduced things like hand sanitizers everywhere? Have you introduced spacing, the necessary with the 2 meter spacing? So rather than have them all around a common table, have you brought in maybe different small tables for each person? For instance, not allowing them to share computers, not allowing them to share chairs, having allocated chairs for each individual employee, things like that. Now, if they have to see clients, what have you done to protect them from the clients? Have you told your clients that they must now, if they're coming to your office, they must now wear masks? Have you put up those protective shields, those plastic or those acrylic protective shields that you see in shops, those kind of things? Be very specific, because it is a genuine fear. And besides, under health and safety laws, you have a legal obligation to ensure that you don't expose your staff unnecessarily. Okay, all right.
I do apologize, but I do want to finish this. If at the end of the show I'm able to take more questions, I will do. But I do want to quickly finish this, and then I will take some more questions. All right. There's one more question here that I want to quickly take. It says, is it necessary for the business plan to be in writing? And this is from Palm. Palm says, thank you, Palm, for your question. Is it necessary for the business plan to be in writing? I would say yes, for your own purposes. Anything written down, any plan written down, whether it's business plan or not, is better than the one that you keep in your head. You can't keep all the intricacies that you need regarding the business in your head. So indeed, write it down, and you'll be amazed what things look like when they're written down. Even you can begin to say, this is not going to work. Oh yes, maybe if I tweak that. So yes, now it doesn't have to be an elaborate one, like I said at the beginning of the show, such as the one that you prepare when you're going to get a loan, that kind of thing. But you do have to have a plan. So you might have a plan that says, okay, finance, and then maybe how much what you're going to be spending your money on, capital projects, the IT system, the staff salaries, that kind of thing. Then you might have over here, okay, venue, that kind of thing. You should have it written down. I would strongly encourage that you do that. Okay, let's quickly have a look at what your market research should be telling you, and then I'll take some more questions later on. Now, your market research should tell you when, first of all, there is indeed a market for your product. Like I said in one of the earlier programs, people often assume that because they like the product, everybody else will like the product and they'll be willing to pay for it. Now, when you're doing your market research, make sure that you don't just speak to your friends or your family or people who will be afraid to tell you the truth. Because sometimes we think it's a great idea in our head, in practice does not work. And we need to be able to ask people who will tell us the truth. So look for a cross-section of people when you're doing your market research. Look for a cross-section of people of different backgrounds. So Caucasian and Black and different backgrounds, as many backgrounds as possible, because what a product that works well for one group of people may not work well for another group of people. So do that. Also, one of the questions you should ask is, how much would you be willing to pay for this product? That's really important, and I'll tell you the reasons for that later on. But that's really important that you ask that kind of question. How much would you be willing to pay for this product? Okay. All right. So then, your market research should also include, who are my customers? Again, that's very important. In one of the earlier shows, we talked about that. Don't assume that everybody is your customer, because they are not. Not everybody is your customer. It doesn't matter how universal the product that you are selling is. Not everybody is your customer. Market research should inform you who your customers are to the utmost detail. It should inform you their sex. Would this product appeal more to men than women? It should tell you their social background. Would this product be more appealing to people, to the working class or the middle class or the very rich? That kind of thing. Will this product be better in this color or in that color? Your market research should tell you all that. What kind of packaging would be appealing for this product? Again, so if it is a product that you are selling, let's say it's a perfume in a that you have to sell in a box, send out samples of the box, of the design of the packaging. Ask for opinions. Do you like the color? Do you like the ribbon on it, or should I do it without the ribbon? Did you like the inscription on it? All those kind of things are part of your market research. If you don't do it, you fail to do it at your peril, because these are really important things. Where are my customers? The kind of people who would want to buy this product, where are they? And again, we've spoken about this in the past. Where are they geographically, but also where are they online, so that I can pitch my product to where they visit a lot online. So if it's a professional service, for instance, if I was opening up an accountancy firm, let's say, for example, where would I find my clients online? You would most likely find them somewhere like LinkedIn, as opposed to TikTok or as opposed to Facebook. You're more likely to find them on LinkedIn. But if you were selling something like shoes or jewelry or something like that, you're more likely to find them on Instagram, Facebook, that kind of thing. So your market research should show where your customers are. Your market research should show you how you to communicate to the class of people that you are looking to pitch your business to. It should tell you what kind of language they speak, and I'm not talking about whether they speak English or whether they speak French. What kind of language, what kind of words would I need to use that would appeal to them into buying my other things that your market research shows are things like, do I need a physical office, or can I run this business online? Would it be best to run it online? Again, that will inform your overhead, how much money you're going to need to get this business off the ground. Because of course, if it's a service that you have to have clients come to your office, then that's going to increase your overhead. And let me just say, in as much as it's great that a lot of businesses have now considered the option, because of the COVID-19 thing, consider the option of running their businesses post-COVID-19 online. Not every business can be run online, I can assure you. Some businesses are better run on the face-to-face basis. That personal interaction is very, very important for certain businesses. Now, in as much as I'm doing webinars and stuff like that, because I'm a speaker, in as much as I'm doing webinars, I don't care what anybody says, webinars do not come across as well as you physically standing on a stage. The dynamics is totally different. So if you're into that kind of industry, if you are a speaker, then a physical office or a physical venue is definitely better than an online one. But of course, if the preferable is not available, then the available becomes preferable. So that should not deter you from doing whatever it is that you're doing at the moment. How much money will I need to start? This is something that people nearly always get wrong, because they underestimate how much money is going to be involved. So here are a couple of the things that you're going to need. Money for, like I said, a venue. Money for things like your IT system. These are things that we call, they're like working capital. Working capital is capital that you need to get the business, to keep the business ticking over on a day-to-day basis. So that kind of thing. My IT system, my phone system, my marketing stuff. So your website, your letterheads, your business cards, your stationery, all those kinds of things. If you're going to have staff, if you're going to have to pay them salary, if you're going to get in professional services like your solicitor, your bookkeeper, maybe your business advisor, all those kinds of things have to be paid for, and that money is coming out of your business. So don't underestimate how much you're going to need. Again, this is a good idea why you should have a business plan, because then you have it in black and white exactly how much money you're going to need to get the business off the ground. Now, the next one is really important, specifically for those of you who are in professional services. At what level should I set my prices? This is a huge problem, an ongoing problem. Now, I'm on LinkedIn, and this topic comes up regularly on LinkedIn. For people who have actually been in business for quite a few years, we still struggle with where to pitch our prices as regards fees, professional fees. So it's either that we price ourselves totally out of the market because our prices are too high, or we undercharge. That's the one that we do the most. We tend to undercharge, and we undercharge because we think that people are hiring us because of cost. And that's not often the case. Actually, most people will hire you if they see the value that you are adding. So that's what you need to concentrate on, the value that you are adding. And let me just say this, there is nothing like a product that is too expensive. Nothing like a product. I don't care how much your product costs. It is not too expensive. If your customer says to you, "Baby, that product is too expensive," you are talking to the wrong customer. It's that simple. You are talking to the wrong customer. I was listening to a trainer, a South Africa trainer, say the other day. He said, when people go to Lamborghini and they see the eye-watering prices of Lamborghini, they don't say to them, "Oh, but why is it so expensive? A Peugeot isn't that expensive." If a customer says that, then clearly is not Lamborghini's customer. It should go to Peugeot. So don't be deterred. Don't think, "Oh, if I put my fees up, nobody's going to buy it." No. as long as you are adding value, there is somebody out there who can pay for it. But because this is such an area that is problematic for us, and indeed I had my own problems in relation to knowing how to set my fees. Next week, I'm going to have my first guest. I'm going to have my first guest on the show who is going to help us with this. And his name is Mr. Morton Patterson. Now, Morton Patterson is one of my business advisors. That's why I'm bringing him on the show. I only work with the best, and so I can assure you he is the best at what he does. And he's a business consultant and facilitator. And he's a Marshall Goldsmith stakeholder executive coach. He works with business owners and independent professionals and teams who are struggling with knowing their value and how much their work improves their client situation. So again, he doesn't concentrate on the fees. He concentrates on the value that you are bringing to the client. So he helps clients to increase their fees and profits and identify and package the value and build excellent relationship with clients. So he's going to be on the show next week. So tell your friends to tell a friend, and make sure you tune in here next week. He's going to be here. Get your questions ready because he will also be answering questions. But this was an issue that I had, and if you've read my book, I actually dedicate a chapter on this. It was an issue that I had. I was totally undercharging myself, and that was because I didn't understand the value of what I was bringing. Once I got a grip on the value, and I gained the confidence to set my fees at a level that I was comfortable with, then it was fine. And you will discover that this difficulty that we have in commanding the fees that we actually want is a mental block. It has nothing to do with our products. It is a mental block. So he helps us. He will talk us through the mental blocks and how we can get rid of them. Right. Another thing that your market research should show is who are your competitors. And when it comes to competitors, what you should be doing is look at what they are doing. What are they offering? How can you do it better? Not how can I do it cheaper? How can I do it better? How can I do it differently? What is my USP, my unique point? Because you don't have to compete on price, believe me. What is my unique selling point? That is what you need to identify, and that is what you need to push to the client. So if you and I were selling the exact same product, why would somebody buy from you and not buy from me? That's your unique selling point. So your market research should help you identify. Look for a slant. Even if you're doing something, if you're selling something that everybody else is selling, look for a slant. What would make yours different? What would make yours more attractive? Okay. Your market research should also include what kind of business structure should you have. Are you going to be a sole trader? Are you going to be a partnership? Are you going to be a limited liability company? Should it be a franchise? That kind of thing. All that should come out. All right, I'm about to round up in a minute. But lastly, also, what skills will I need initially? What skills will I need? Can I get by with the bookkeeping, the level of bookkeeping knowledge that I have? Will that be enough? Or do I actually have to hire a bookkeeper or an accountant? What are my long-term plans for the business? You should know that from the start. What are my long-term plans? Do I want to just do this business for 5 years? Or do I just want to take advantage of a quick market opportunity? Maybe during this COVID-19, I just want to sell masks. I just want to sell hand sanitizer. And after that, I'm going to do something else. Or is it a long-term business? Do I want to build it over the next 10 years and then sell it? Or in fact, do I want to keep it for the next generation? Do I want to build something that my children can inherit and can speak to the next generation? All right? Should come out in your market research. Okay. Things that you need to do to get your business off the ground. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been informative. And thank you so much to all the guys and girls that brought in certain questions, David and Benga and everybody else that's sending your questions. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support. I had somebody on Facebook who sent in a message, and she said, what did she say? She said, this is Nana Kosei Ventures. Hello, Nana Kosei Ventures. Awesome show. Thank you so much for your wonderful comments. I wish you all the best in your business. So stay safe, stay well, and don't forget Morton Patterson will be here next week to help you, to talk you through how to command the kind of fees that you want to make your business profitable. It's your girl, Bebe Clement.
Don't forget, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
The blood of Jesus.
The mini MBA marketing was everything I expected.
It's simple, effective and thought-provoking.
It gives you the tools and frameworks to make you more confident in your role.
And it can easily be applied from day one.
Everything about the mini MBA course is user-friendly, slick and fun.
The Mini MBA has helped me drive forward my own career and also be a better manager.
Mini MBA, major ROI.
Number one reason for success is people focus on things that have high potential consequences. Number one reason for failure is people focus on things that have low or no potential consequences. Exactly what Joe was saying earlier, the famous Drucker quote, very worst use of time is to work intently on something that need not be done at all. I've dedicated my life to being a small and medium-sized entrepreneur, and I've devoted the second half of my life to helping other people to be successful small and medium-sized business owners. And Carl Schramm of the Marion and Ewing Coffin Foundation, the preeminent foundation on entrepreneurship, wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal 2 days ago. And what he said was that there have been very few empirical studies into what actually makes a successful business. That most of what is taught in the entrepreneurship faculties of the universities is nonsense. In fact, he said that there's something like 1,687 professors of entrepreneurship, and their primary focus is drinking their own bathwater and telling that entrepreneurs have to have a business plan. And if you have a business plan, you'll be successful. And they spent 2 years in their faculties teaching people how to set business plans, and 49 out of 50 businesses are started without a business plan, including some of the most successful businesses in the world today. So we are now just starting to learn what we really need to do to build successful businesses. And what Joe is doing here is absolutely marvelous, because it can save you years of hard work and hundreds, even thousands of hours of hard work to understand how to do it much, much faster, to shortcut. We say there's always a learning curve in anything, and what we want to do is we want to jump the learning curve. We don't want to spend years and years learning what we need to learn to reach a certain level of income. And so I've majored now in the last few years on doing seminars and talking and books and articles and programs for owners and would-be owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Now I've got 45 minutes, so I'm going to have to condense what sometimes I share in seminars for days. But I understand you're some of the smartest people in the world, so that you can take a lot of information in a short period of time. Is that true? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did anybody not understand the question? So I'm going to try to bottom line several of the concepts. One of the first concepts which I thought was interesting was a little story that was in the papers recently. Warren Buffett, who is one of the richest men in the world, and Bill Gates, who is the richest man in the world, and Bill Gates Sr. were at a dinner party, and the three of them are good friends, and they were talking. And a gentleman came up to them and said, you know, I was looking at you, and you gentlemen are very successful. What would you say is the most important quality of success? And all three, according to a bystander, all three broke off their conversation and turned and simultaneously said, focus. Focus is the most important requirement for success in our fast-moving world today. If you can focus, you can succeed, and if you cannot, you cannot. It's almost a black and white thing. Well, I thought that was interesting because the way Joe and I met is I put together a program some years ago called the Focal Point Program, which basically brought in business owners like yourselves and taught them to focus. And we spent 3 years going through every single aspect of life. We had 82 exercises that dealt with family and business and marketing and product and service and competition and positioning, and it was focus, focus, focus. And my offer, which is not as good as Joe's, but my offer was that you will double your income and double your time off within 12 months, or there'll be no charge for this program. And I never had to give a refund. In fact, many people doubled and tripled their income within 30 days just by learning to focus and just by thinking in terms of focus. So it's really, really important. I read an article about myself. It was a very successful entrepreneur in New Zealand, and the article was sent to me last week. I'm reading this article, and he said the turning point in his life was when he went to a Brian Tracy seminar and learned how to focus. He was broke, he was unemployed, he had no money, and he walked out of the seminar a completely different person, and he had written goals. He then looked around, and as it happens, he saw an article on coffee shops and Starbucks success in the United States. And it said coffee shops are a good business to be in because more and more people like the idea of a specialty coffee shop, and if it has a Wi-Fi, then they go there, it becomes a social center and so on. He knew nothing about coffee, and before the dust had settled, he owned 80 coffee shops in Australia and New Zealand. And then he says he got into a divorce and had to sell it for $50 million to share the proceeds with his wife. But he did not sell off the worldwide rights to it, so he's rebuilding. Anyway, his point was at the end of the article, they said, well, what would you say to aspiring entrepreneurs who want to be successful? And he said just two things. He said, focus and fail fast. Focus and fail fast. Learn quickly, try something new. And I thought I would just pass that on because it's sort of what I have discovered over the years is the faster you fail and learn, the faster you succeed. You actually learn to succeed by failing. You know, Thomas J. Watson's famous line, if you want to increase your rate of success, you must double your rate of failure because success lies on the far side of failure. Well, over the years, I've done a good deal of reading, and I came across a concept that I want to share with you, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier. And the concept is, the question is, what is the most valuable and highest paid work that you do? It's a really interesting question because when I heard the question, I didn't know what the answer was. What do you think the highest paid and most valuable work is that you do? And the answer is thinking. Thinking is the most valuable work. Now, I am the best-selling author in the world in time management, also on goals, also on some other subjects. But I began studying time management about 30 years ago, and I came across a word in my studies, and the word was consequences. And what it basically said is that something is important if it has big potential consequences, and something is unimportant if it has low or no potential consequences. Number one reason for success is people focus on things that have high potential consequences. Number one reason for failure is people focus on things that have low or no potential consequences. Exactly what Joe was saying earlier, the famous Drucker quote, very worst use of time is to work intently on something that need not be done at all. And one of the things that is holding back entrepreneurs, business owners, it's killing them, by the way, and it's wiping out an entire generation, is this obsession with technology. I see people that are walking with their phone. It's almost like drug addicts that are mainlined. They cannot stop staring at their screen. They cannot stop pushing their buttons. I hate to say that there were people in this room that had that problem, but the fact is that this obsession with looking at the screen and staying connected is killing people, because it stops them from focusing. You cannot focus if you are distracted like an attention deficit disorder dog. So you're constantly ringing and responding to bells, almost like a crazy person in a toy factory. And so just as a quick aside, if thinking is the most important thing you do, because of the consequences of thinking determine the entire quality of your life, then the quality of your thinking determines the quality of your life. And so the more time that you spend thinking and thinking well and thinking.
Meet Visme, the dynamic platform used by leading companies to simplify brand management and create beautiful content in less time. Perfect branded content every time with ease, without limits. That's your brand on Visme. Create your free account or learn more at visme.com.
Hey, thanks for making my day with your haze.
What?
Typo, I meant face.
Read receipt.
Did I ruin it?
No, my mom just called. She says hi. Smirk emoji.
A relationship starts every 3 seconds on Tinder, just not like they do in the movies. Download Tinder now.
And clearly, the more successful you are. Over the years, I've worked with some very powerful people, billionaires and multi-billionaires, people who are on the Forbes 400 list repeatedly, over and over. And I've had a chance to be with them during crises. And what times where something was happening that was serious. It was a major problem. And I noticed that they all had one quality in common, is they all went calm. It's just, they went calm. People around them were angry and upset and worried about what happened and who did it and so on. And they would just go calm. Almost like a pond would go calm. And they knew, and I learned later, I didn't know why this was. I admired it, but I didn't know why it was, is that when your mind is calm, your entire cerebellum, the thinking and deciding brain, functions at its highest level, like turning up all the lights on a dimmer switch. It's functioning like a Christmas tree. But when you get upset and angry, what happens is your thinking reverts to your limbic or emotional system, and your ability to think clearly diminishes dramatically, and you make a lot of mistakes. That's why when you are facing a difficult situation, you have to use every skill, trick, game, whatever it is, stay calm. And that's why they teach you to meditate. And they find that meditators in business are far more successful because they can automatically trigger their mind into the calm of meditation when they're facing a crisis. It enables them to think with greater clarity. Now, a couple of years ago, a man named Daniel Kahneman, a very fine man from reading him, who had won a Nobel Prize in psychology and neuroscience, wrote a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. And this book, it was a very esoteric book, and I don't recommend that you read it. It's 500 pages of hard slogging. I will give you the essence of, I do the reading, pass it on. I will give you the essence of the book. He said that there are two types of thinking. There's fast thinking and slow thinking. Fast thinking is intuitive, it's instinctive, it's automatic, it's reactionary. I think of it very much as how you would drive through busy traffic. You're not giving a lot of thought, you're just interacting. He said the other type of thinking is slow thinking. And slow thinking is where you just slow down the thinking and take time to think through issues. Now, if an issue has little or no consequences, then you can think quickly. You know, what do you have for lunch? What do you pick up on your plate from the buffet? Where do you park your car? These are the consequences of these decisions are almost non-existent. But if it's a major issue, then you say, wait a minute, this requires slow thinking. Here is his contention that made the book a bestseller, is that the biggest problem that people have is that where they should use slow thinking, they use fast thinking. And entrepreneurs are extremely guilty of that, is we make important decisions that have long potential consequences, including affecting the lives of people and costing money and even leading to the bankruptcy of a business. We make those decisions with fast thinking when in reality we should be making them with slow thinking. Now, I'm a great Drucker fan, as many people are, and Mike was saying something about hiring the right people, and hiring the right people to work with you is very important. And the biggest mistakes you make is hiring fast. You hire people quickly. The best decisions you make are where you really take your time to hire slowly. And Peter Drucker said that fast people decisions are invariably wrong people decisions. Hiring an important person for an important job has tremendous potential consequences. So therefore, you need to take a long time. One of the things I teach, which is in my book, How to Hire and Keep the Best People, is a simple rule that will increase your hiring accuracy to 90%. And I've taught it to Fortune 500 companies, and they make it a rule within their companies to use Brian's rule. You cannot hire except by doing this. And I didn't invent it. I just studied the hiring practices of the companies that hire the best people and keep them the longest. And they all, at the beginning, have a certain process that they follow, and they follow it religiously, no exceptions. And so their accuracy in hiring goes up to 90% or better because they think more. Then the interesting professor at the University of San Diego last year wrote a book on sort of thinking fast and slow, but it was on decision making. What he said is the longer that you take to make an important decision, the better the decision will be, the higher quality decision. And Lord Acton once said, when it is necessary, when it is not necessary to decide, it is necessary not to decide. In other words, the professor said, buy as much time as you can for a decision. Put it off. If you can put it off for a day, a week.
The Mini MBA marketing was everything I expected. It gives you the tools and frameworks to make you more confident in your role. It made me feel like a better, more rounded marketeer.
Mini MBA, major ROI.
Weekend, a week, a month, put it off. Some of the best decisions that you make will be decisions that you will allow to steep for a while, like water in tea. So thinking is the most important thing you do. We call it thinking fast and slow. So remember, anything that is important that has long-term consequences is a candidate for slow thinking. Discussing it with other people, sitting quietly, going for a walk, letting it ruminate in your mind, sleeping on it. You know, they say if it's a big deal, sleep on it. So there's 3 thinking tools I want to give you, and then 7 ideas. So the 3 ways of thinking, which I start off, the first way I start off every seminar is what I call zero-based thinking. And everybody who knows me for any period of time knows that I harp on this. Zero-based thinking comes from zero-based accounting, where you, instead of increasing an expense in the next accounting period, you ask, should we be engaging in this expense at all? Now with zero-based thinking, you look at your entire world and you ask this question, knowing what I now know, is there anything that I am doing that I would not start up again today if I had to do it over? This is one of the greatest thinking tools I've ever learned, because in a time of turbulence, you always have an answer for this question. Each person has an answer. Some people have multiple answers. There's lots of things that they're doing today that, knowing what they now know, they wouldn't get into today. They wouldn't start them up. Products they wouldn't offer, people they wouldn't hire, investments they wouldn't make. And these are the greatest drags in life. These are sort of like a sea anchor, you know, that you drop it and it drags, it slows down the boat. Well, how do you tell if you have a zero-based thinking situation? And many of you were asked to write your problems, challenges, opportunities. The answer is stress. Is whenever you experience chronic stress, it's something that buzzes around. When Joe's talking or somebody else is talking, you're busy thinking about that. You drive around and you think about it. Keeps you awake at night. It's something that pisses you off. It's something that irritates you and angers you and frustrates you. Whenever you have chronic, which means ongoing, continuous, this is a candidate for zero-based thinking. So you ask yourself the question, if I was not now in this situation, knowing what I now know, would I get into it again today? If the answer is no, the next question is, how do I get out and how fast? How do I get out and how fast? If ever the answer comes back that I would not get into this again today, it's too late to resolve it. It's over. The only question now is, how long do you suffer? How much emotional suffering, how much financial suffering do you make before you walk? And so the most important requirement for practicing zero-based thinking, which a lot of people don't like to practice, is courage. I call it the C word. You need the C word. You need to have the courage to look at every part of your life and say, is there anything that I'm doing that, knowing what I now know, I wouldn't get into? Now the starting point of zero-based thinking is always with your relationships. And those are both personal and business. Whenever I've given this talk, by the way, within a short period of time, divorces take place all over that city. People go home and say, geez, if I hadn't married this person, I would never marry them again today. And that's what's making me miserable. And many people are working their heads off on the outside to achieve success, but inside they're frustrated and unhappy because they're in a situation that, knowing what they now know, they would never get into. So I call this a quink analysis, and I'm going to ask you to do this for the rest of your life and to help other people do it. K-W-I-N-K, knowing what I now know. Do a quink analysis on everything. Do a quink analysis. In my company, what we say is we look at every single person and on a regular basis, and we say, if we had not hired this person and they walked in today to apply for their current job, knowing what we now know, would we hire them? If the answer is no, they're gone that day. There's a little rule, by the way, that in one of my books, it says the best time to fire a person is the first time it crosses your mind. And because after that, it's only pain and suffering. And if the longer you keep them in place, the more likely they are to sue you. And the longer they sue you, the more it's going to cost. So therefore, if you find that you've made a mistake, belly up to the bar, have the courage to admit I made a mistake, and cut your losses. There was a great book by an author called the Zurich Axioms some years ago, and it was Principles of Success. And anybody who's in finance has probably read the book because a very successful New York financier. And he was talking about the gnomes of Zurich, whoever they are, and the rules that they go by. And he said the number one rule for success in business, personal life, is cut your losses. When you realize you made a mistake, bad investment, bad hire, bad relationship, cut your losses quickly. And what do they say in Las Vegas? Cut your losses, let your winnings ride. So in life, that's what we do. And the faster you cut your losses, fail fast, the faster you can start doing things.
Drinks must be stirred sensibly.
That are much more productive. The second area has to do with every part of your business. Joe and I were talking about what I think is a revolutionary new field, though it's not revolutionary and it's not new, but it's business model innovation. And it's based on the concept that whatever business model you're using today is probably obsolete. If you're in any kind of a business that uses technology to market it, especially an information-based business, knowledge-based business, consulting services, training, anything else, chances are your business is obsolete. The way that you and the business model is your method, your step-by-step process of generating profitability. Now, there are some companies that struggle along, and then find a new business model, and the next year their business is up 5 or 10 times. Profits are just overwhelming. They're living in big houses on the hill, driving Cadillacs and flying private jets, and you say, what on earth did they do? They changed their business model. And if you don't change your business model, if it's the wrong business model, two things are going to happen. Your competitors are going to come up with a new business model and eat your lunch, and or you're going to go broke. So it doesn't mean that your business model is wrong. It just means that you must be open to the possibility that your business model is obsolete, and that just means that there is a better business model. There's a superior business model, and your job is to find it. And again, there's no fixed answer to it, but I think that this is a great area of thought. I think this is a great area, and it's sort of like a tool for you to have. I wonder if I need to change my business model, which is your way of generating sales, producing and delivering products and services, getting payments, and achieving profitability. Well, so coming back to the second is look at anything in your business. Look at your products, look at your services, look at your people, look at the way that you advertise, market, and ask, is there anything that you're doing today that, knowing what you now know, you wouldn't start up again today? And the only question that you ever ask is, does it work? Does it work? Does it work? If it's not working and you can tweak it, then that's fine. If it's not working, have the courage to admit this isn't working and abandon it. Now, the third area has to do with investments in zero-based thinking. Investments of time, which people hate to lose. Someone said earlier that people hate to lose. It's one of the greatest emotions. We hate to lose time if we've invested a lot of time in a course of action, a project, a business, a relationship. The second is emotion. If we put a lot of emotion into a course of action, a product, a course of study, a relationship, or money. We hate to admit that we made a mistake. and that what seemed like a good idea at the time has turned out not to be a good idea, and knowing what I now know, I wouldn't get into it. And have the courage to cut your losses and run. Now, the reason I teach this first is because you can't make any progress unless you clear the decks, unless you get this 800-pound gorilla that's holding you back out of your life. And then many companies that I've worked with literally transformed, became multi-million-dollar companies when everybody said, all right, we're going to go through and do a quick analysis on this whole company, and realize that half the things that we're doing and half the people working here are not the right people for us at this time. And half the products that we're offering aren't selling and never will. They've been replaced by better, cheaper, faster products in the marketplace, so cut your losses. What happens when a big company gets into trouble? They bring in a quick analysis man, and he comes in with a chainsaw, and he shuts down all the factories and all the stores that are not profitable, and the company goes from profits to losses in 1 year. Anyway, the second thinking tool that I teach people is WPO thinking, which is worst possible outcome. In everything that you're doing, always ask yourself, what is the worst possible outcome of this course of action, and can I survive it if it were to occur, and if not, what could I do to make sure it doesn't happen? One of the number one reasons that we worry about anything in life is because of fear. And when you ask yourself, what is the worst thing that can happen in this particular situation? And then if you can say, all right, if that happens, I'll live with it. Then your worry goes away, and your mind goes clear and calm, and now you say, now what can I do to make sure that the worst does not happen? And then you become proactive, and you take charge of your life. The third thinking tool, I hope I'm not going too fast for you. The third thinking tool is called the principle of constraints, and it's one of the most important thinking tools ever discovered. It says between you and anything that you want to accomplish, there is always a constraint, a limiting factor, or a choke point that sets the speed at which you accomplish your goal. So I was just doing a teleconference a few minutes ago. So the question I said is, let's always set the goal of doubling our income. You want to double your income. Okay, want to double your income. Then why isn't your income already twice as high? Now in business, we don't think of doubling our income, we think of doubling our profitability. What we're concerned with is net cash flow. We're concerned with the amount that we take home to our family at the end of the day. Not the gross, but the triple net. So we say, if I want to earn twice as much, and everybody in here can and will earn 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much sometime in the future, if I want to earn twice as much, why aren't I already earning twice as much? And the number one reason for most people is distraction. So they're so distracted, they're doing things of low or no consequences. But we found the 80-20 rule applies to constraints. 80% of the constraints that are holding you back from achieving your financial goals are within yourself and within your business. They are not on the outside. They are not the competition. They are not the market. They are not the people in Washington or the taxes or regulation. 80% are within yourself. So the mark of the superior person is whenever they have a problem, they say, what is it in me that's causing this problem? Mike and I know this very, very clearly. What is it in me that's causing this problem? In illness, by the way, 85% of illness is psychosomatic. As Dennis Waitley said, it's not what you're eating, it's what's eating you that's causing the problem. And so the starting point, and the first thing a doctor will tell you, or a psychologist, is what is it that you're not dealing with? And you can go back to zero-based thinking. What is it that you have in your life that if you had to do over, you wouldn't do it? So ask yourself what's holding you back, and usually it's the quality of self-discipline or it's a skill. Now, one of the things that changed my life forever was when I learned that all business skills are learnable. You don't have to be a genius to learn any business skill. You can learn any form of technology, as Mike has proven that with his products. You can take a person who's basically shoveling shoe polish in Shabokin and teach them how to be technologically superior enough to earn a living from it. Every business skill is learnable. And so I say, what one skill, if you are absolutely excellent at it in your business, would help you the most to double your income? What one business skill? If you could wave a magic wand and wake up tomorrow morning superb in this area, what skill would it be? And you know, when you ask that question, everybody knows the answer. They know what it is. But here's the challenge. You don't like the skill because it involves rejection, embarrassment, ego, potential failure, loss. You've tried it in the past, you haven't been good at it. But nobody asked you what would be an easy skill to learn. They just asked you what skill would help you the most to double your income. And here's what we have found is that Most of us are only one skill away from doubling our income. And all business skills are learnable. And if you study the people who go from the top to the bottom in the Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000, they found in 25 years of research, these people learn one skill at a time. Like climbing the ladder of success and the ladder of income, like sniper, one shot, one kill. They don't try to learn 50 skills. They learn the one skill, focus, the most important skill, and they get their company focusing on the one skill that can help you the most to generate sales and profitability.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
I talk about what I call the greats, the 7 greats in business. And actually my 3-day seminar has the 10 greats. But the seven greats in business I will give you briefly. First of all, successful companies have great leadership. And leadership is the ability to get results. But it's also the ability to allocate resources, which means it's the ability to make decisions and to make hard decisions. Because if it were easy decisions, everybody would be a leader and everybody would be rich. So making decisions using thinking, slow thinking, using long-term thinking, is the critical job of the leader. Drucker says, the first job of the leader is to ask what results are expected of me. And then I add to that, of all the results that are expected of you as a leader, what is the most important result that you need to get to achieve the sales and profitability for which you are responsible? One of the rules what we learn in business, we never complain about anybody or anything in our business, because we're the boss. We're the ones who decided this. We don't complain about your staff because you hire the person. If you don't like the person, get rid of them. Don't complain about them. You just sound like an idiot. You know, it's like picking up food from the buffet down there and saying, I don't like this food. Well, I never have liked this food. I've always hated this food. Well, why did you pick it up? Well, I don't know. You know, the fact is you never complain about something in your business if you're in charge of it. If you don't like it, change it. If you don't want to change it, shut up. Now, which allows me to jump actually forward, is one of the marks of superior entrepreneurs is that they're intensely solution-oriented. Is whenever something goes wrong, they immediately go calm and they say, all right, what's the solution? What's our next action? What mediocre people do is they say, who did it and who's to blame? How did this happen? They go on a witch hunt. And of course that makes them become angry and frustrated. But superior executives, when something goes wrong, problem with a customer, problem with money, problem with bills, problem with product delivery or defects, they say, okay, all right, how do we solve this? What's the solution? Now here's a wonderful thing, is your success in life will be determined by your ability to solve problems. My friend Colin Powell said, leadership is the ability to solve problems. Success is the ability to solve problems. And how do you become really excellent at problem solving? I just finished a book, by the way, called Creativity and Problem Solving that Amicom is publishing in New York at the end of this year. It's because I did years of research on the subject. Here's the point, is the way that you solve problems is simply to think about solutions. What are all the possible solutions? Be intensely solution-oriented. Don't allow yourself to get bogged down, negative, upset, unhappy about the problem and who did it. Focus on the solution and the actions that you can take. And when you start to think about the solutions, remember Helen Keller's wonderful line, when you turn toward the sunshine, the shadows fall behind you. When you start thinking about solutions, we could do this, we could do that, and you could do this, and I could do that, and we could do this. When you start thinking about solutions, your mind goes calm, your creativity turns on like lights, you start to have more energy, you start to feel more confident, and so on. Are you with me so far? Yes. Thinking about problems makes you negative and shuts down your brain. Thinking about who's to blame is even worse. But thinking about what you can do and the actions you can take puts you back in charge. Well, the second principle, and I talked about, the second great is having a great product or service. And this, to me, was and is a revelation. And it's so simple, it stares you in the face. But 90% of your success in business will be to have a great product in the first place. And this is something that many people miss. They think if I have a good product and I pay thousands of dollars and go to really clever seminars, they'll teach me some marketing gimmicks and tricks so I can con people into buying it. And they spend enormous amounts of time and money trying to advertise or market what is a mediocre product. And I had a good friend, Mitch, and Mitch owned 3 first-class restaurants. And he did no advertising for the restaurants, and the restaurants were always full. And when people said, where do you want to go for dinner? Let's see if we can get into one of those restaurants. And so I asked him. I knew him very well because we worked in the same organization. Dr. Allard, my mentor, owned the 3 restaurants, and Mitch was a part owner, and he ran them. And he could just start an excellent restaurant. I said, what is your secret to promotion? How come these restaurants are always full? And he said, we always put it on the plate. I said, how do you mean? He said, we put superb food at good prices on the plate and just stand back. And the restaurants are full all 7 days a week. And I always thought that's the key to success in business. Put it on the plate. Put it on the plate. Put the quality, put everything into the product or service. Now, the Inc. magazine does a story on the Inc. 500, the 500 fastest growing companies in America, taken over a 3-year period, and every year they update it. The last edition, which came out a couple of months ago, showed that the number 1 fastest growing company grew 42,500%. 42,500%. Unbelievable, it grew so fast. Others grew 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 times in 2 or 3 years. All new companies, or reasonably new companies, all companies started by people like the people in this room, and they grew 5, 10, 50, 20, 100 times. Wow! What was the key? So they went back and they had outside researchers analyze it, and you know what they found? Is all the companies put it on the plate. Is every one of them was obsessed with quality, and obsessed with quality as their customers defined it. And they were close to the customer. They're locked tight to the customer. As I was sharing his idea about what was it called? What was your WTC? What did you say about customers? Well, Joel, yeah, think like a customer. Sharing that on my conference today. Think like a customer. The very best companies think like a customer. What do customers want? What do customers need? And you know, the key to success is make your customers happy, and then make them happier than your competitors. And then every single day, wake up and think, how can I make my customers happier? And they went and they interviewed the CEOs of the 500 fastest growing companies, and every one of them was obsessed with customers. They thought about customers. They talked about they visited customers. They called customers. They went and saw customers. They personally responded to customer complaints. They were just obsessed with it, which again repeats that 90% of your success will be the quality of your product or service. Now, how can you tell if you have a great product or service? Well, it's a very simple test, and this is the test that predicts your future more than any other test for the rest of your business career. How many people, after they have used your product or service, turn to another person and say, geez, that's a great product. Geez, that's a great service. Geez, that's a great company. Geez, those are great people. And how many people say this is a great product? What percentage? 50%, 40%? Average in America is about 30%, 35%. Top companies like Apple that come out with an iPod, an iPhone, and an iPad, people consume the product. The next time they come out with an iPhone, they sleep on the sidewalks in rows of hundreds to be the first purchasers. They come out with an iPad, hundreds are sleeping on the sidewalks to buy it and pay outrageous amounts, and then they start showing everybody else, isn't this a great product? And then they have apps. Look at this app. Look what you can do with this app. How many people have an iPod 5, an iPhone 5? Okay? How many of you showed other people the panoramic thing? How you can take panoramic pictures. Isn't that a great concept? You know it used to cost thousands of dollars to have panoramic cameras that could take a panorama? And now you've got it in your iPhone as one of 100 or 1,000 different things it can do. So people who buy their products become their preeminent salespeople. They're running around grabbing people and bothering them and showing them the product or bragging about the product. In a movie, by the way, the movies companies only have enough advertising for the one weekend. They could take big ads for one weekend to get people into the theater quickly. After that, the movie will either grow or die by word of mouth. And your movies that are successful, by word of mouth, everybody's talking. Have you seen that movie? You've got to see that movie. Honey, I just heard about this movie at work. Let's go tonight. You weren't even planning to go to a movie. And you go there on Tuesday night and the theater's full. Have you had this experience? You see, and everybody's talking about it. The most important key to our success. So go back to the Inc. study, and I'm looking for corroborations. In the Inc. study, they had researchers say, what is the very best place for a company to invest if they want to increase their sales and profitability? And the answer came back after looking at everything else is invest in improving the quality of your product. Invest in improving the quality of your product. Make the product better and better and better. Make your customers happier and happier. Make your customers so happy. I say that the key to success is to get your customers to buy from you first rather than from your competitor, to buy again because they are so happy, and to bring their friends. And if that becomes your operating theme, and we could talk about this all day, is get them to buy from you, buy again, and tell their friends, then you're going to be successful, you're going to be wealthy, you're going to be respected, and more than anything else, you're going to be just as happy as you can be. Because nothing gives us greater joy than to make our customers happy. Number one is become a great leader, which means set clear goals, be decisive, take responsibility for results. Number two is offer a great product, and never be satisfied with the quality of the product. Just constantly strive to make it better in the eyes of your customers. And here's one of the great revolutions in marketing, which I think is so important, is the very best companies, the 4 stages of the epiphany, the lean startup, are going to their customers and saying, how do you define a great product? Would you buy this? Would you pay for it? What would you want more of? What would you want less of? What can we do to improve it? They're even doing this with what they call the minimum viable product idea, is they take a product idea to a customer before they even make the product. And they work with the customer shoulder to shoulder to develop the product so the customer says, this is a great product. Then they produce and market the product. So number 3 is you want to have a great business plan. But a great business plan simply requires that you think through on paper the critical aspects of your business, and especially you analyze what it's going to cost, what you can sell it for, what kind of profits you can make, who are the people that you will need. There's a great story of Napoleon's generals all around this large table with maps of Europe spread out, and this is when the French armies were conquering everywhere. And they were talking about what cities or what municipalities, what duchies that they were going to attack with the army next time. And Napoleon would come in from his office, which was nearby, and he'd say, what are you doing? He said, we're talking about we're going to move the army from here, we're going to move it to there, and so on. And he'd say, well, gentlemen, he said, I'm afraid that we can't do it. We don't have the horses. And you've heard the expression, we don't have the horses. It comes from Napoleon. And what he was saying was that the entire army was driven by horses, cavalry, and horses to pull the wagons with the supplies and everything else. And they could get more men by recruiting on the march, as they did. They recruited, as they went through a village, they recruited people. Join the army, see the world, that sort of thing. Join the army, see the cannons. But the horses, those were scarce. And so the whole success of the army was determined, could they get the horses? That's why when Mike talks about getting the right people, is where do we get the horses? We got the ideas, we know what needs to be done, but where do we get the horses? So these are the things that you think through in a business plan. What kind of technology will you require, and what will it cost to set it up, and who's going to run it and operate it? What kind of advertising, publicity, promotion will you require? How much will it cost? What kind of returns will you get? So a business plan, and there's many people, I'm sure you have lots of business plan models that are quite common, is a business plan forces you to think long-term and to think slowly. And you'll always make better business decisions if you think long-term and you think slowly. The fourth area has to do with having a great marketing plan. And a great marketing plan is what you talk about all the time. But there's a rule in advertising. I used to work for a large advertising agency. And the rule is the fastest way to kill a product, a bad product, is to advertise it or to market it. Is to fight, because if you market it, what happens? Is more people use it. More people use it and are angry about it, then they tell more people and the product dies. So the fastest way to kill a bad product is to promote it. And many people think, oh no, the way I can get my money back is I can sell it to people before enough people know how bad it is. No, we have the internet today. Everybody in the world can know how many troops appeared on the streets of the Crimean with balaclava masks on their face, and they know that in 3 seconds. I was just in Russia, where in Russia they control all the media, and they tell people that they were attacking the Ukrainians, backed by the CIA, are behind all the problems in the Ukraine, and the poor Russian people just are being sacrificed, so I'm just sending in some of my troops to help protect our... I said to my friend Sergei, I said, Sergei, that's nonsense. Not a word of what you're saying is true. It's totally false. The only people in the world who believe what you're saying are people within Russia who have no access to news on the outside. Anyway, I'm getting off track. My point is that marketing means, how do you attract people to your product or service. There's a difference between marketing and sales. You know what it is? Imagine that I were to say to you at midday, this group, I say, is anybody here hungry? You raise your hand, all right? That's marketing. I'm interested in your product or service. I'm interested in the product or service generally. But anybody here like to save money, make money, lose weight, be happy, pick up girls, whatever it happens to be. Then the second part is, now I have a restaurant. Let me tell you why you should come to my restaurant to satisfy your hunger rather than to go to the competitors. So those are the two. It's the marketing is to attract people who raise their hand, who are interested in the benefit that your product or service offers, and selling, the conversion, is to get them to buy from you rather than from your competitors. So they are very different functions. You can't sell if you can't attract interested prospects. So marketing is a very complex process, and you guys talk about it all the time. So you need a great marketing plan. How can you tell if you have a great marketing plan? Answer is you have a steady stream of interested prospects who are calling you, emailing you, coming in your door, sleeping on the street in front of your business each night to get to be the first ones to come in the daytime. Number 5 is you need a great sales plan. And a great sales plan, of course, is a sale that consistently and predictably converts customers or converts interested people into customers. Now here's the rule. If you have a professional sales process, and 100% of all successful companies have a professional sales process. If you speak to the salesperson, I'm working with an international company that has a branch in Warsaw, and if you speak to the salesperson in Warsaw or the salesperson in Los Angeles or the salesperson in Johannesburg, 100% of them use exactly the same sales process. The first contact will be a telephone contact to offer you a benefit and to try to set up an appointment, and the words will be word for word. The reason this company did this is it almost went broke because everybody was selling their own damn way. They would say whatever fell out of their mouths whenever they ran across a prospect, and they realized that without a sales process, we have a great product, which they do, it's killing them. So they systematized the sales process. Their sales went up 1,000%. It's been proven that if you go from random selling to a proven sales process, and of course you have to debug it, you increase your sales 500% with the same number of prospects. I've seen people get their closing rates from 1 out of 10 to 9 out of 10 by simply improving the sales process. And so selling is really important. That's one of the things we focus on. Now, there's 2 more points that I want to talk about in terms of grades. One is generate great numbers. And this is one of the most important parts of business. All business activities and results can be expressed in numerical form. Everything, right down to the number of telephone rings or number of seconds it takes for a person phoning to make connection with a person who can help them. Jeff Bezos, who, as you see, got Best Entrepreneur Businessman of the Year, both Forbes and Fortune, they're obsessed with measuring every single activity. And they look at the seconds, the number of seconds that it takes. When we first bought from Amazon, they would advertise 5 to 7 days UPS. Today, they offer 1 to 2 days max. In cities like San Diego, where they have warehouses, you can order in the morning, it's delivered in the afternoon. Books, tapes, courses, clothes, it's Zappos overnight. They can deliver overnight. Because why? It's because they're obsessed with shortening the amount of time it takes to make customers happy. And the shorter the time, customers really value speed, and they'll pay top dollar for someone who'll make them happy faster. It's they've determined that. So look at the numbers. And the question is, what are the most important numbers in your business? What we teach in our longer courses is about 35 numbers in any business. Some of them are unimportant, some of them are extremely important. And there's 5 to 7 of those 35 numbers that are the A numbers, and then there's one number that's the most important number of all. And we call this, or Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great, calls it the economic denominator. And when I started doing my coaching programs with entrepreneurs, one of the first things we taught was to identify your number. What is the most important number in your business? The number that most accurately predicts your success and your future. And most people get it wrong the first 3 to 5 times. What is your number? What is your most important number? The number that you just basically obsess with all the time. And one company went from struggle, written up in Entrepreneur magazine, went from struggling to bankruptcy, and then a friend of his asked him, "What was your number? What was the number you were focused on?" Well, we weren't focused on any number in particular. We didn't even hardly keep track. So they were just selling by gosh and by golly, and at the end of the day, they were bust. He had to go home and live with his mother at the age of 26. So he said, no, you have to pick a number. So he sat down and he said, and he picked a number, and it's called net contribution margin. In other words, exactly how many net dollars and cents do we make from each sale? And then we compare those sales, and that's after 100% of every expense of cost of customer acquisition and lead generation and delivery and everything else. And then they compare those against the others, and they re-emphasize. In other words, net contribution margin. This year, he'll hit $100 million in business, and he's laughing. He said, changed our whole life to finally figure out what our number was. So a question I always ask people, what is your number? Do you know? Do you know the most important number? Do you know what most entrepreneurs say? Sales. Sales, everybody knows that, just sales. Really? What if you're losing money on every sale? Then the more sales you make, the faster you go bust. And you know that many companies are losing money on every sale because they don't add in all the costs of the sale. They leave out their own labor, they leave out rent, they leave out utilities, they leave out delivery costs, they leave out defects, they leave out packaging, theft. And so there's, boy, are we selling a lot. Yeah, well, how come you're losing more money every month? Did you see these companies, by the way, that announced they had 11 billion in sales last year, they lost 3 billion? And you see them all the time. You say, how could you lose 3 billion if you sold 11 billion? Do you know why? It's because they don't know the numbers. And what they're doing is they're probably working harder and harder to sell more and more products at which they're losing more and more money. And nobody sat down and done the attributable cost. Okay, the last of the 7, and this is the one I love, and this is the future, by the way. The front end of business, the first bookend, is having a great product or service to start with. The last is to have a great customer service experience. And I cannot tell you how important this is. This is what Joel and I have worked on all of our lives. Make our customers so happy at the beginning and so happy with the product and happy afterwards. It's the key to repeat business. It's the key to rapid growth. Every successful company, without exception, is obsessed with taking good care of their customers once they get them. And if they have a customer complaint, the head of the company doesn't sleep at night. They are so upset about customer complaints. They'll go out and personally visit them. The company president will phone an unhappy customer and talk to them because they consider customer happiness, like Tony Hsieh, to be the most important thing in the world. What Tony says is that we're not in the shoe business, we're in the customer happiness business, we just happen to sell shoes. And if we were selling something else, we'd still be in the customer happiness business. What was that worth to Tony? Sold it for, his idea translated into Zappos sold it for $1.2 billion and took home $350 million. Not a bad idea. Make your customers happy. Does it work? Yes. How often does it work? 100% of the time. So you'll find that the very best companies, the ones that you really like and want to go back to, are the companies that make you feel happy. They make you feel good as a result of having done business with them. They take good care of you. And as a result, you go back over and over again and you bring your friends. So those are the 7 greats that we talk about here. Great leadership, great product or service, great marketing plan, great sales plan, great numbers, great business plan, and great customer service plan. And if you have those, here's the interesting thing, is if you're missing one of them, it's like dialing a 7-digit number. If you miss one of them, your company will go broke. Miss any one of them, get them wrong, get the wrong answer, or miss it completely, then your company goes broke. So now we know scientifically, basically more and more of exactly what you have to do to build a high-profit business. And the wonderful thing is it's all learnable. You can learn any one of these skills. Anything I just explained to you is as simple as ditch water. All you have to do is just say, and what is it? You think. Like, yeah, I could do that. I could do more of that. I could improve that. We could do that.
Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. They're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.
I am good at only one thing, business. For the last 30 years, I've built 19 companies and invested in 78 startups. People ask me every day to be their mentor and to help them. And they've even offered me £10,000 to help them just for one day in business. I don't want to charge people for help. I want to give you the knowledge for free. And today, I'm going to give you everything you need to start a business, to grow a business, to maintain a business, and to sell a business. But if you can't stay on this video for 5 minutes without clicking off, I've got some news for you. You're probably not going to make it. I'm now going to list all the things I'm going to go through in the next 45 minutes to change your mindset, give you the tools you need to be successful, and hopefully create new pathways in your brain that give you the chance to be successful. The very thing that the education system does not want you to be is free, working for yourself, controlling your own destiny. So today we're going to cover how to start a business with no money, how to win and the secret to it all in business, how to lose, important, how to do a mind map, which is much better than a business plan, much more liquid, how to find purpose, very important, to motivate you to get up in the morning, to motivate your team to get up in the morning, and to motivate customers to want to work with you, how to find a co-founder, something that I personally believe is like having a relationship partnership. It can change everything if you have the right co-founder and can give you that accountability that we all need. How to sell, everybody can sell. There's no such thing as people that are good at selling and people that aren't good at selling. They're just people that haven't been taught the system of selling. Everyone can sell, everyone must learn to sell. It is the key to unlocking freedom. How to market your business, how to PR yourself and your business, how to get an investor, and I'll go through many different ways around that subject. You can get an investor. How to get sponsors, often an untapped secret source to making a business grow without needing an investor. So we'll get into that. How to build a company brand, because I honestly think value comes from building a brand, not a business. And we'll go into what a brand is and how to build one. How to build personal brand, which in this day and age, without doubt, is vital. You can't really build a company today without having a personal brand. And I'll get into personal brand on a public stage and personal brand within your industry. How to hire, how to grow, how to build, how to go global, which is easier than it sounds and probably very important so you're not stuck in one market and leaving yourself vulnerable. How to get a mentor, there is a way to do it and nearly nobody does it. And how to avoid big mistakes, but accept luck into your life, make luck happen in your life. And finally, how equity works and how to sell your business. At the end of this video, you will know everything that's taken me 35 years to know. You will be changed if you watch this video, and I promise you at the end of it, it will cost you nothing and you'll never regret it. How to start. Now, most people tell you to start a business when you have an idea. That's not where a business starts. A business starts with a feeling, an instinct that perhaps you need to make a change, and then applying yourself to learning what is the best way to build something that you love. Now, everybody tells me that starting a business is filling a market gap or finding a niche. That is not true. One of my most successful early companies was a company called Fluid. This company turned into one of the biggest agencies in Asia, which I sold to PricewaterhouseCoopers for more money than I'll ever need. And when I launched that company, there was 500 other businesses doing almost exactly the same. So how did I manage to win? I didn't have an original idea like everybody tells you you've got to have to start a business. You don't start with an original idea. You start with what you like doing. Now, I love helping businesses and people succeed. I love marketing. I could spend all day long studying and understanding marketing. Every time someone launches a new business, I want to understand how they made it successful. I'm obsessed. I enjoy it. It's my hobby. There is no work-life balance. It's only syncing up your life with your business. And so I believe the first step in starting a business is following your passions. Now, everybody tells you that that's not the way to start a business because often your passions initially don't necessarily generate revenue. But that's because you haven't applied a business mindset to what you love. So I loved marketing, and I started a creative agency called Fluid that helped people come up with marketing ideas to make their businesses successful. Now, there were many companies doing it, but not many of these people doing it loved it like I did. So I evolved my marketing abilities, pushed the boundaries of what was possible, used new technologies like at the time email marketing and direct marketing that no one else was doing because I was obsessed with what is the latest thing. And for you, the way you do it is you've got to write down what you like doing and got to write down what you don't like doing. What you love doing, you've got to get really good at. And what you don't like doing, you've got to outsource and not do it. The school system has taught you the wrong thing, that if you're not good at something, you need to spend more time getting better at it. That is a lie. You've got to spend more time getting good at the thing you love to do. Get obsessed by it. And that's actually where a business idea begins. Because once you have figured out what you love doing, The next step is the idea. Now again, people will tell you that you need to come up with an original idea. That's not true. The second thing is, when it comes to an idea, you can actually combine forces with other people. So back to my example, when I launched Fluid, I loved marketing. And I met someone who could take my marketing ideas and turn them into graphic illustrations and brilliant presentations and abilities to help that company in a visual way understand my idea. So I teamed up with her and created a 50-50 business partner. I'll come on to equity later in the video. That was literally the springboard to one of the most successful companies in Asia in this space. So the key is not coming up with an original idea and trying to do it all on your own. The key is coming up with something you love, linked to what you do, and perhaps if there's a gap within your ability to execute on what you love, find a partner. So for example, if you love writing, then write a book. And maybe you need to find a partner that can publish that book, or find a company that will publish that book, or get someone to help you, like an agent, find someone that will publish that book. And that's where it really begins. In the idea phase, it's got to link to your passion. And I'll come on to purpose later, but it's key. You won't be able to follow through and probably won't be successful if you're not willing to do the thing that you're doing more often and all the time compared to other people. So, you figured out what you love doing, and now you have an idea. Now, the idea itself can evolve. From my point of view, when I started what I'm doing today, which is a platform to help you for free, the first thing I did was, in fact, a podcast. So the step after idea is step one, execution. And execution involves what is the first thing you can do to make your business idea come to life. And for me, in my example, it was a podcast. But for you, it might be a blog. It might be a LinkedIn post. It might be setting up a social media handle and starting to post up your photography. Whatever the first step execution is, do not make it too hard for yourself. In my case, sitting down, interviewing people I found interesting, recording it and putting it up would serve the purpose of giving people mentorship in a podcast for free, which was my first step in my mission in my recent business. So all I really did was get a microphone, sit down and record conversations. Now, if you go back and look at those very early podcasts, the execution was not brilliant. The guests were good, the execution was not great. I had a rubbish microphone, I had a rubbish camera, and I slowly improved. And step one is come up with a simple execution plan. Step two in starting a business is consider where the revenue is going to come from. Now, some people say you need this within the idea phase. And yes, you can put it within the idea phase, but sometimes revenue doesn't actually make itself clear until you start. So an example, if you're a photographer and you think you're going to make your money charging by the hour for your photography skills, you're probably limiting yourself, right? So you're probably better off initially taking pictures of things you love and putting them up online and seeing if people would buy them, seeing if people would license the pictures, experimenting with revenue models and seeing what sticks. Sure, maybe people will book you by the hour, but why would you start off with a revenue model that limits yourself? So I think when building a business, the thing to really think about is not necessarily revenue, but experimenting with different ways to make money from the thing that you are doing. So again, when I launched Fluid, most companies charge by the hour for their marketing consultancy service. We didn't. We charged by the outcome of what we did. So if we helped a company be successful, sell more product, we took a percentage of those sales. Now, that was not part of most companies' business models, because most people start with an idea and then they do a revenue model and then they start. A famous quote is, everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the face. And the truth is, when you launch a business, you just want to keep yourself nimble, like a boxer. You want to see what is going to be the best punch combination for you to make your business work. And finally, when starting a business, step 3 is you've got to make sure your purpose is strong. Now, you've made sure that you enjoy what you do, and that's great, because that's going to help you get up in the morning. But actually, I believe new businesses today need to think about what they're going to do to make a difference in the world. How are you going to make sure that people want to work with you? How are you going to make sure that what you're doing isn't just for profit? Because if it's just for profit, everybody that works for you is going to want more money. Everybody that's working with you is going to want to pay you less. But if you have a purpose bigger than yourself and identify that purpose and install it in your business, I promise you, you won't be managing people anymore. One of the biggest stresses of building a company. You won't have to manage people because you only have to manage purpose. Now, I'm going to go into more depth how this all works, but a lot of what I've talked about here already has cost you no money. You haven't had to spend any money. Now, even if your idea is to launch an app that costs £1 million to develop, start off with a service business. Start off with a revenue-based model that can get you there. So an example is Airbnb. When they launched, they actually sold cereal boxes at conventions. It was enough to be similar to Airbnb, because some of the first accommodation Airbnb ever sold was at conventions. People would go to see Obama speak, go and see different politicians speak at these conventions, and they would rent out rooms on Airbnb later. But initially, they sold cereal boxes, Obama reels, at this event, at these events, to get to know their customers, connect to their customers, have a conversation with their customers, and make money. And that is the money they used to initially get the business going. So I will come on to other steps later now in the video about raising money and other ways to do this. But if you do these first few things, your business is up and running, it's cost you no money, and I promise you, because it will have purpose, because you like it, and because there's a revenue model behind it, you will do it, it will happen. So how to win in business? Let's say you've already got a company, you're not winning and you want to win, or you want to know the secret formula to winning. And having built nearly 19 companies, I'm on my 19th business now, how to win in business is actually very simple. Now I mentioned earlier having purpose and you personally being passionate about it. That's definitely going to give you an edge, because most people are not loving what they're doing. So if you are, you're already winning. But there is a secret formula to winning, and that starts with a couple of things. Number one, delayed gratification. Spelt completely wrong. You get what I mean though, right? Delayed gratification is the number one reason that businesses win. You don't rush to charge customers, for example. You let them help you succeed. So the first customer I ever got in my agency, Fluid, I actually did the work for free. Now, a lot of people say don't do the work for free. I don't agree. I built up a relationship with that customer. I over-delivered when it was free. And that meant once they were happy, not only did they use me forever, for the 16 years that I ran that company, they also recommended me to everybody. They felt like they were part of my early journey. Getting your customers on side is another element of winning, but realizing that if you delay getting gratification, you will make more money. And there's so many examples of this. If you look at big businesses, they spent years making no money. And then when they had the system all in place, huge databases, for example, then they can monetize. And people don't wait long enough. The other thing you can do is have a very strict moral code within your business, a culture. Culture will eat strategy for breakfast every single time. You've got to make sure that your culture in the company is client-centric. A good example of this is Amazon. I'm just saying that they do actually focus on their customers as a culture. And I think that a lot of people are too busy, for example, thinking about how they can get money out of their customer and not thinking how they can bring value. And if you want to win, bring value. You want loyalty, bring value. You want them to follow you, promote you, share you on their stories, care about you, talk about you when you're not in the room, then show them some love. It sounds simple, but people don't do it because they're too busy not waiting for the payoff and too busy not installing a culture of patience, a culture of caring about your customer. And then the final thing is luck. Now, luck is not a subjective thing. Luck, I have discovered, is hackable. And you can hack luck 3 ways. First, be persistent. And what I mentioned earlier about purpose and loving what you do will help you be persistent. You have to outlast other people. When I launched my company Fluid in Hong Kong, I had so many competitors. But slowly but surely, they all shut down, went bankrupt. They didn't care like I did. And I think that whole luck thing is about persistence. That's number 1. Number 2 in hacking luck is know your destination. What is success for you? What will make you happy? What do you want? Big company, small company? And by the way, a big company is much easier to run than a small company. Aim for a big company is my recommendation. But that's my opinion. It might not work for you. So I suggest you define success for yourself. Today, success for me is having the time to take my son to school and be able to pick him up. It's having time to do the exercise I want to do. That's how I define success. So I never sell hours. And we'll come to that in a little bit, why you should never sell hours. But luck is hackable. You have to be persistent. You have to know your destination. And finally, you have to learn to take risk. Be careful with sayings out there trying to trick you into options that are not true. So the worst one is the harder you work, the luckier you get. That is not true. That is a lie. a lie designed to make you work hard. If it was true, every nurse in this country would be a millionaire. It is not true that working hard equals success. What equals success is taking risk. You have to learn to take risk. Lean into fear. Learn to love fear. Embrace it. And then you can take more risk. And the more risk you take, the luckier you get. Learn to build culture into your businesses about the long term and learn to hack luck. You will win. The secret to it all is learning to accept that you could lose everything and it doesn't matter. You've got to be willing to risk it all. Take a chance and go for it. Do not rush. Do not see this as anything but a marathon. It's not a sprint. Enjoy the journey. Don't rush. No one can beat you if you do it. So delayed gratification is key. Brands like Facebook and Instagram, although I'm not a fan necessarily of these platforms, they personify this concept. They did build massive user bases, but they didn't monetize them at the beginning. They waited. They just kept building value in their platforms for the users, and more people kept signing up. And they didn't actually monetize for a very long time. I think Facebook was nearly 10 years before it started making money. And although I'm not suggesting you wait 10 years and those companies have different investment structures, which we'll talk about a bit later, it is important to understand how important this is to building a successful long-term business. Do not think about making money straight up. Build a brand, not a business. And those businesses like Facebook and Instagram, they waited a decade before they started monetizing. And as soon as they started monetizing, Facebook in particular, it started to decline as a brand. Less people liked it. Too many ads on the screen, too many annoying buttons that didn't have any relevance to them because they were suddenly trying to make their client happy, the advertiser, and no longer focused on the user in the same way. So be careful. But that is how you build massive economic moats. People like Google, similar. At the beginning, no revenue. YouTube, at the beginning, no revenue. Focus on building something that has value for people. Delayed gratification is one of the secret weapons in building a sustainable, large, and successful business that you love. Next up, how to lose. It might sound like a strange title, but it's the number one thing I've noticed that people don't learn to do that doesn't allow them to be successful. This all stems back probably to school, where you were told that success was getting an A. It's not. Success is actually accepting failure, learning to bounce back from failure, embracing failure, having learnings from the businesses that I have been involved in that have failed, have allowed me to be successful. I guarantee you, if I hadn't lost £1 million on doing comic book business, I wouldn't be rich or successful today. I needed to learn how to fail. I needed to accept losing. It's key. And so how do you build the stamina and the ability to lose? The first thing you realize, number one, don't let things own you. If you let things own you, you are controlled by the very thing that's meant to bring you pleasure. You have to learn to lose those things and not care about those things. The second thing, to lose, you need to let your short-term ego go. Now, ego is actually a very powerful motivator, and there are different types of ego. The ego I'm talking about here is driving around in the right car to give an image to people that don't care about you that you are successful. Do not worry about this. Learn to enjoy looking like you're a loser. Let people underestimate you. It is so powerful to be underestimated by your competition, even by your customers, because if they think you can't deliver and you do, then brilliant. Do not worry about losing. Learn to be a D student. Love to fail. That's why 80% of A students end up working for D students, because A students are scared to lose. They don't want to lose. They always want to get an A. They always want to be seen as the smartest person in the room. Don't worry about it. Learn to lose. Learn to embrace getting a D. And getting a D in business means take your time. Don't let someone else decide whether or not you're success or not. Do not let anybody else tell you how to do things. And ironically, power up your ego in a different way, an internal ego. that tells you you're not a loser. You know where you're going. No matter what people judge you based on the car that you're driving, or where you're living, or what you do with your day, don't let them decide that you're a loser. Let them think whatever they want. Learn to love losing. Learn to embrace failure. I promise you, if you think that the worst is if you try something and you lose everything, it doesn't matter, you can go again, you will succeed. I guarantee it. Next up, I want to teach you something practical. How to do a mind map. So many people teach you in business to do a business plan. Forget that shit. There is no use for a business plan. What you want to do is map out where your business could go, how it could go, and understand the different directions in which to take your business. And I'm going to go through how to do a mind map next. Now, I have never seen anyone teach anybody how to do a mind map. And the reason I think that no one teaches this is because there's no template to sell you. There's no product to sell you around. A business plan has a million ways to make money out of you. And none of it works. These business plan things actually kill companies. I've seen people write up massive business plans, stick to it, and die. A mind map, however, will cost you nothing to do and actually leaves you nimble and free to explore where the business can go. And it's so simple. It starts in the middle with your hobby. Whatever that is, what you love to do. Second part of a mind map is the business. I can't spell, but don't judge me for that. Luckily, I know what I'm doing in business. What is the business? So what is your hobby? What do you love to do? And ideally, it now links to the business. Now, with the business, and I'm going to use my company as an example, hopefully it translates into what maybe your idea is. But in my business, which is what we call Free Humanity, the name probably gives it away, what we want to do. We want people to be free, to do what they love. So within Free Humanity, this is what I did when I first started the business 4 years ago. I looked at different ways that I can make the business work. So, off here, I wrote podcast. Right? Actually, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of the first things I actually did. So from a podcast, what comes off it? Well, I built a network. Right? I'm now doing a mind map of something I actually have already done to illustrate how a mind map works when you're building out a business of value. So one of the benefits of doing a podcast was a network. In my case, I managed to interview over 200 of the world's most successful entrepreneurs, which are now part of my life and help me with what I'm doing, help you on helpbank.com. That was one of my ambitions, and it was on my mind map network. The second thing was brands. I realized if I did a podcast, I could probably make revenue from brands. Now, with a mind map, you can get bigger and bigger and bigger with mind maps. There's no stopping how big a mind map can get. Just like your brain is infinite in its ability to think, a mind map is also infinite. And when I wrote the original mind map out for my business, I thought brands, and then I started listing them. So in my case, GoDaddy, Tide Banking, Adobe. These were brands that I felt were a fit with what I wanted to do. Give people the ability to start their own business, be free, do what they love. So I listed out all the brands that I could work with. I also listed in my original mind map, and I didn't do it at the beginning, but it ended up becoming part of what I did, was an app. And an app that would focus on free help for people. Now at the time, I didn't have the name that I now have, which is helpbank.com, but I knew that I needed to build a scalable way of giving people knowledge. Now what I didn't know back then that I know now, a quick bit of insight, is that app is overused as a word. It's actually not an app that you need to build at the beginning for most platforms. You need to build a web-based platform. Why? Well, if you build an app, you have to go in the App Store or in the Google Play Store. You get restricted by one of those two locations. So people that have a Samsung phone can't access the Apple Store to download your app. Why would you, when you launch something, restrict people from getting access to it? Plus, if it's web-based, people can just log in straight from a web browser, any web browser. That aside, I realized in my early days, I needed to do an app. And from that, I would do free help. And from that, I would be able to connect the network that I'd built in the podcast to the free help. So the people that I'd interviewed in the podcast, the knowledge that I was capturing in their case, I could connect now, that network being built via the podcast, to the help on the platform. This is how it's actually played out. The next thing I spent time thinking about was team. And on a mind map, I thought about who I actually need. Now, because I knew I was going to do a podcast, I knew that I needed an editor. But I also know my weaknesses, so I know I need an accountant, someone who's going to take care of the admin. These are things that I don't enjoy doing, so I know what to do. But I also realised with the network that I'd built through the podcast that I could have partners. So it's not just employees, but partners I could link to the team. Again, working with the people that I'd spoken to on the podcast, I could connect them. The people that were going to work on the app, I could connect them. Although they're not necessarily on my payroll, they are people that perhaps are connected to my mission, want to help people, and they can become part of my extended team. Now, within the team structure, I can also start thinking about things like if I have an editor, maybe that editor hires editors. Or I hire editors, but you can start breaking down what you actually need within your team. Right now, as a mind map, you start, in my opinion, with what your hobbies are, what you enjoy doing. You're then building a business around it, and then you're thinking about different things that this business is going to need. Now, one of the things that I spent a lot of time thinking about that I haven't yet done but will be coming soon in my platform was what else I could do that would scale the business, give it what it needed resource-wise, without necessarily me being involved in it. And at that time, back 4 years ago, the word was merchandising. So I wrote down merchandising. Now, I think it's actually evolved now. It's beyond merchandising. But from that, I wrote down, of course, what everyone was doing 4 years ago. T-shirts and caps, that sort of stuff, right? Stuff that, maybe the word free humanity would look pretty cool on. And I thought about, in those days, things like sweets and products that perhaps we could launch. And I wrote down basically any way, merchandise-wise, we could make money. Now, what's interesting is I'm about to launch a sweet brand called Busy's. It's taken 4 years to get to this part of the mind map, but it was on there. It was always on there. And ironically, when I was building team, if anyone said to me when I was interviewing them they had some experience with sweet business, I made a note and kept them as someone maybe could help us in the future. Same with merchandising. Anytime I spoke to anybody that was perhaps looking at starting a t-shirt brand or working on building product, I'd see if perhaps they wanted to work with me in the future. Because once you know in your mind map one of the things that's going to come up in the future, you can look out as you're building other things for the very thing that's going to help make that happen. So this is a mind map. It is literally mapping out all the different things and different ways that your business can go. It's fun, it's simple, there's no template you can download and pay someone for, you don't need it. And the beautiful thing about a mind map is you're not fixed. You can start adding bubbles and adding things as things evolve, as people and the world change. You can start adding things and connecting the different dots between parts of your business. Something that a 20-page document will never let you do because it's too linear. So that's a mind map. I hope it's a useful practical tool for you going forward. How to find purpose. Now, this word purpose might sound woo-woo. They don't teach you it at school, in my opinion, for a reason. Because if you understand purpose, you're very unlikely to work for someone else. Purpose is a very personal thing. You can find other people with purpose, you can find your tribe, you can be free. But finding purpose is not an easy thing, and it's not something you've been given any of the tools in which to make happen. So what is the first step in finding purpose? And it's a very obvious step that people do not do. You think about it. Now, the problem is, if you say you're thinking about purpose, people might laugh at you. Other people try to throw silly jokes out there like 49 and they'll throw you off. Or purpose will get so complicated in your head because you've not really thought about it before, you'll give up and go back to your old ways. You need to think about purpose. What is your purpose? We used to live in tribes of 5,000 and we used to work on a method called give without take, not give and take. We used to help each other because it would make our tribe better, not because we'd make money from it. You ask me for help, I will give it to you for free. The world will be a better place. I'd get better at giving you that help for free. I'd become an expert at giving that help for free. Eventually, when I'm not in the room, people will talk about me and what I do because I've become so good at helping people. But I think today, that doesn't fit the narrative of working at a call centre and picking up the phone and doing what you're told in a factory that Henry Ford created. So when the school system was developed, the word purpose wasn't included in any of it. They asked the wrong question of you. What are you going to do when you grow up, is what schools say. That's not the right question. What you should be asked is, what problem are you going to solve? So the second step in thinking about and finding, hopefully, purpose is what problem matters to you. Now, at first, nothing might spring to mind. If something has jumped into your mind, then great. In a minute, I'm going to explain how you action that. But if it hasn't jumped into your mind, start thinking about what problems have actually affected you, big or small. Now, it can be really simple, like the banks aren't open early enough for you, or the swimming pool you wanted to go to doesn't let you swim the time you want. It might sound silly, but you start thinking about problems that bother you, and your brain wakes up. The entrepreneur muscle in your brain that helps you figure out how to solve that problem. Now, it might be that the bank's not opening on time isn't a problem you're going to solve, but if your brain starts thinking about that problem and how it can solve it, you might begin to understand how to find purpose. The third thing you can do is start breaking down how to make your life and that purpose match. Now, matching what you do in your day and your actual purpose is often easier than you think. I've met hundreds and hundreds of people who tell me what their dream is, and it turns out that their dream is often just 3% difference from their existing life. You know, between chimpanzees and humans, and only 3% difference in the DNA. And often, for example, I met someone that wants to do their own catering business. They're working in someone else's catering business. They're just missing this video in their life to figure out how to turn what they feel is their purpose, to make cakes for someone and make them smile and own that business, into that business. They're just missing knowledge. They're also not realizing that actually their purpose is nearly there. In fact, I would argue that the system sometimes wants you to feel like you're getting enough satisfaction that you don't need to make a change. So in other words, if you are working for someone else baking cakes, even if they're not using the ingredients you would use, or they don't care about the customer the same way that you do, at least you are baking. But you've got to break free from this thinking. You've got to realize that if you're going to do your purpose, you have to learn what I said earlier, take risk, but most importantly, to truly know yourself. I once interviewed a billionaire on my podcast and I asked him, how did you build your intuition? And he said to me, I used to go and ask my mum or my dad a question when I was young, and they both used to say to me, you know the answer, you know it. I never gave him the answers. So he had to go away and figure out the answers for himself. And that in itself is the point I'm trying to make here. You have a purpose. Yes, I can help you get there, but you need to ask yourself, what is that purpose? How are you going to make it happen? How are you going to get there? And you do it by thinking about it, asking yourself not what you're going to do when you grow up, but what problem you want to solve, and then matching your life to that problem. And the final thing I'll say, you don't have to do this thing on your own. Let's say you care about climate change. And I would just say, we don't need to save the planet, we need to save humans. When the humans are gone, the planet will be fine. But let's just say you care about saving the planet. You can go and work with other people doing something in this space. The only thing I would say to you is make sure you ask for equity wherever you work. I'll come to that a bit later, how you do that and why you should do that. But that can be still a way for you to have the life you want. You can find your purpose and then go work with someone that's actually doing it. So in my organisation, behind the camera right now, is a whole group of people, talented people, that care about the same thing as me. So they can go off and help people in their own way like they want to, or we can come together as a team and solve the problem together that people don't have the knowledge they need to do what they love. What I have noticed is that once you find your purpose, and this is what you need to be careful of, is that you don't think that it's such a big purpose like solving the world's problems, that you don't do it. You can team up with other people to do it. And I will tell you, 1 + 1 = 11. Remember that. Once you know your purpose, you can seek out people and communities and old days tribes to help you go and fix this problem with other people. But if you don't know what that purpose is, you won't do this and you will get stuck working on someone else's purpose, someone else's destiny. And I promise you, it's harder to work for someone else than work for yourself, despite what you have been told. How to find a co-founder. Now, if you're someone that likes to work alone, you can perhaps skip this bit. But I would say to you before you do, make sure you understand the power of a co-founder. Sometimes we get caught in our own ignorance bubble. We think we know what we know, but you don't know what you don't know. So be cautious before you skip this section that you're absolutely sure that a co-founder cannot bring you value. I will tell you first up why a co-founder can bring you value. It's a bit like if you get a gym membership, you probably don't go to the gym. But if you have a buddy who goes to the gym every morning, you often have accountability and you go. For me, that's one of the number one reasons I love having a co-founder. Now, there is a counter argument to having a co-founder you'll hear from many people, which is, well, why would you give up 50% of your company to have a co-founder? I personally would rather have 50% of a business I enjoy that's successful than 100% of a nightmare and a failure. And I honestly think, with all my heart, that if you get a co-founder, your life is better. How do you get a co-founder and what should you look out for is something I'm now going to cover. But I want to just say, you have to think carefully about the equity structure. And later in this video, I'm going to talk about equity, and it's going to be important, and it's going to connect back to this. But for now, I'm just going to talk in this bit about how to get a co-founder. Now, the first step is to identify what I said earlier, which is, what do you love to do and what do you hate to do? Be honest, be clear. Hate and love, right? Hate and love. Now, once you've identified what you hate to do and what you love to do, you can identify what is the perfect co-founder. Because you want someone that has the opposite skill to you, but, and this is very important when looking for a co-founder, I'm going to put it as number 2, has the same moral code. This process of finding a co-founder is pretty much the process of probably finding a partner in life. You're going to spend a lot of time with this person is going to become literally your business life partner. And if you do it right, it is for life. Like I have in business, done businesses with people, and even when I've sold that company, I've done another business with them. If you get it right, it is a lifelong partnership. And so you want to make sure you're honest and clear about what you hate doing and what you love doing so that the person comes in and works with you. One, doesn't question you or cross over with you, lets you run your area and gives you respect. Equally, you have the same with what they do. You write down exactly, in detail, what this person looks like. And I would go as far as to say, you write down how tall they are, what they look like, how they speak, their background, where they're from, everything you can possibly think of. Just as if you're picking a partner in life, what is it you're looking for? Write down every detail. The reason I say the more detailed you are with it, the more likely you are to manifest it. You aren't going to be looking out for something unless you make it very clear what you're looking for. I mean, it's the red car theory, right? If I suddenly tell you the words red car, you're probably going to see a lot of red cars. But if I don't mention red cars, you probably haven't seen one at all today. You have to list out what you want. So you've identified what you love doing and what you don't love doing. You've identified your own moral code. And moral code, I can go into it a little bit more. It's quite a complicated thing, but there is one quick hack on this I can give you. Whenever I'm trying to find out whether or not someone's good, I don't care about money. I care about reputation. So I don't want to accidentally end up working with someone that all they really care about is money, and I have this test to check. I will say to them, what if from this day until you're 70, so let's say you're 30 now, in the next 40 years, you'll have the most amazing life. 3 houses, one in New York, one in Hong Kong, one in London. Anywhere you go, people will love you, private jets, everything you need for the next 40 years. That's your life. And in 40 years' time, however, there is a catch. You'll get to 70, and then everyone will find out that you're a financial fraud, that you tricked people to get here, and that your life generally will be very different. People will look at you differently. Maybe then you'll die, and maybe it doesn't matter, but that's your life. Do you want to take the deal? I'm surprised how many people say yes. I would say 50-50. People say yes, they take that deal. They'll have 40 years of a good life for a bad reputation at the end. Be careful with people like that, is what happens in my brain, right? Because that is the Murdoch story. That is what Murdoch did. His son's committed suicide. His name is in the dirt. No one ever wants to hear that name again in their life, and a lot of people were hurt. So I use open questions and philosophy to figure out whether or not it's someone I want to work with, and you should do it too, because you don't want to be in partnership with someone that doesn't care in the same way that you care. I'm not here to judge what is right and what is wrong. I'm here to tell you how you can check that what's right for you aligns in your business, in your culture of your business, and more importantly, in your day-to-day personal life. So you've identified what you love and what you don't love. You've checked the moral code in every way you can of the person you want. You've drawn lines in the sand, what you're not willing to do, and you know what this person looks like. The final thing is Post-it. Now, Post-it is very simple. You start telling people you're looking for this person. You post it on LinkedIn. You post it everywhere. You ask people. You make it clear this is what you're looking for. You look out for it in cafes, when you're out having dinner, when you're at the supermarket. You look out for this person because they're out there. You just have to have your eyes wide open. Of course, You can go on helpbank.com and ask people if they know someone like this. You can use the tools around you to get what you need. But ultimately, you've now set yourself up with every chance of finding a co-founder. Now, you're going to have to sort out the equity structure and get that right. I'm going to come to that in a minute. But that is how you find a co-founder. And in my opinion, it's one of the most powerful things you can do to ensure success in your business. Next up, how to sell. Now, anybody can sell. It's a system, it's a philosophy, and anyone can do it. I don't care your background. You can be an introvert. You can still sell and understand the systems of selling. And if you are presently selling, I promise you, you are missing a few tricks that I'm going to try and help you with now. First up, how to sell is not what you have been taught. It is not, here's my product, this is how much it is, and this is what it does. The first thing in sales that you need to learn, and the number one thing I learned through the hard way of doing it, is sell the sizzle, not the steak. So what does that mean? Well, let's pick one of the best products ever sold, Apple products. Steve Jobs used to always set up events where he'd invite 3,500 people into a room, all the right tech reporters, all the right people, and he would then present to them the sizzle. He would not say, here's a phone with an Intel processor that has this and has that. He would talk about how this product was for the game changers, for those that wanted to do things differently, for the creative types. He was very specific about what the sizzle is. He didn't sell the steak. Now, in that process of selling, there's a couple of other lessons that Steve Jobs teaches us. Of course, he doesn't sell to millions through social media. He picks a community, 3,500 people in a room. He sells to them. He connects to them. He talks to them. And they go and talk to the rest of the world. Getting someone on your side selling for you is one of the most powerful ways to sell. The number one salesperson in my last company was my accountant. Why? Because I gave her the tools to sell. I told her what we did and how we did it. I showed her the sizzle through the numbers. We helped clients be more successful. We helped businesses starve off bankruptcy. We made sure companies did well. And she was proud of that. She would sell the sizzle. She'd sit with her other CFO friends at lunch and she'd say, we saved a company from going bankrupt. We made one company an extra £1 million a month they didn't expect. She would tell people the outcome. She wouldn't say, oh, I work for Fluid and we have marketing ideas. That's not exciting. She talked about the results. She talked about the philosophy, the sizzle. The second element of learning to sell is understand the process of selling. So many people don't. So many people start on what I call the third step. And you need to do 2 steps first before you ever start implementing the third step in sales. So the first step in any sales is understand your customer. Now it sounds so obvious and I'm shocked how many people don't do it. I often get emails that say, Dear John, or they say, Dear Simon, I really love what you're doing X, and they haven't actually researched what I'm really doing. However, when someone sends me something and understands what I'm doing, is clear on how they can bring value to me, I sit up and I listen. And that is the number one thing that people don't do in the first step of sales. Enough research. They do not spend enough time understanding if the person they're talking to actually needs them. They spend way too much time selling to people that don't actually need what they've got to sell. Don't waste your time with people that don't need what you've got. Focus on the people that do need what you've got. First step is, do they need you? Get to know them. The second step in this 3-step process to get any sales done is understand the person you're working with in the context of, do you like them? This element of sales is so powerful. If you can have a real connection with the person you're selling to, a genuine connection,